Okay, how's it going, everybody? What's up, Wesker Bros? Hope you guys are having a great 4th of July as well. To my American viewers, hope you guys have a good 4th of July. But today's stream, we actually have a very special guest. We actually have the producer for The Keeper's Diary, a Biohazard story, and it's Andy from Biohazard Declassified. So actually, let me bring that up right away. Let's see, 1 second. There you go. All right, how's it going? Hey. Andy, what's up, man? Thank you so much for stopping by. Yeah, I was just checking real quick. I was like, wait a second, am I live on YouTube? Are we live on Twitch? Which, you know what? I forgot to check too on Twitch. That's how it happens with multi-streaming, right? you have to check. But Axel says, "You not celebrating with fireworks?" No, man, I'm not American. Oh, did you wait, did you guys assume I was American? No, I'm not. I'm actually Canadian. Yeah, I'm Canadian, so no fireworks for me. My fireworks were 4 days before in Canada Day. But yeah, thank you so much for stopping by, Axel K. Really appreciate it. And Raccoon City Pizza, how's it going, man? I keep offering. Forgetting. Oh, you keep forgetting. But yeah, so like I said, as mentioned, we're going to be talking about, well, first off, I do want to start off the interview with first, I kind of want to know more about you, Andy, because this is our first time ever, like, I guess it's the first time meeting, but technically I have interacted with you like on Twitter a couple of times, and then also on your Twitch streams, especially regarding the Keeper's Diary of Biohazard story. So I guess for starters, I definitely want to know your backstory. We're just talking about that pre-stream, but how did you get into the Resident Evil? What was your first, I guess, Resident Evil experience?
Yeah, so I suppose I'm 29 now, so I would have got into Resident Evil not quite late, but I was quite young when I did get into it. I used to actually watch my parents play Resident Evil. We used to watch my parents play Resident Evil 2. And I have like really fond memories of when Code Veronica came out in 2001. And my parents actually printed out a guide from Cheap Planet. And like, if you remember fucking Cheap Planet.
No.
Long time ago, man. Cheap Planet was like where you know, obviously before YouTube videos and people show you how to strategize and stuff like that, it was all about like guides, like written guides. So like Code Veronica come out, and my parents was actually sending me to our grandparents to play it for the weekend. I remember being like 6 years old, reading through it, and I was like, man, this game sounds absolutely wild. Problem is, I've mixed all the pages up, so my mum wasn't impressed, and she was like, man, what are you doing? Like,
there wasn't a page counter.
No, yeah, well, yeah, there was, but it was like it was in such 300 a weird pages. Order.
Yeah,
and not only that, you got to think like my mum's now reading through this, and she's like spoiling the game for herself. She's like, "Oh man, why did you do this?" Because now I've got to filter through it, and now I'm going to spoil the game for myself. So, yeah, man. I mean, Resident Evil has always been pretty constant in my life. Like, regardless of what's happened, what life directions I've got in, good or bad, Resident Evil has always been a constant thing. I've always created content around it. And it's just kind of always been there. It's the game that I always go back to, and you're kind of always chasing that high of when you first ever played Resident Evil, and I think that does resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, and that's cool that Resident Evil Code Veronica, I guess, was your first, introduction to the series then. Yeah, nice.
Yeah, well, it was more so like that kind of 2000, 2001. Like, I used to watch my parents play RE2 originally, and I do have a fond memory of like going to my grandparents' house, and all my like my mum, dad, and all my uncles were all gathered round the PS1, like the small PS1, and they was playing Resident Evil 1. I do remember them playing Resident Evil 1 because I remember like the polygon of the of one of the zombies, like with the white coat on. And yeah, that's kind of always stuck with me. And yeah, it's always been there, man.
That's cool. That's cool that your parents kind of got you into it then. But I guess, I mean, you watched them play, but I'm assuming you're probably too young to join in, or you probably were scared, right? I don't know. I mean, that's definitely the case with me. Like my first, I guess technically my first survival horror experience was Silent Hill. I was playing with my mom. I was like, I'm too scared of that. I'm backing up. Like, I don't want to do this, Mom. Forget this. I want to go. And by the way, guys, if you are on the comments, let me know how the audio is. I forgot to ask before, guys. Yeah, Raccoon City Pete says, yeah, that's one heck of an entrance to the series. Laughs like Alfred. Yeah, he had a very interesting laugh. But I mean, we kind of share that in common. I guess technically for me, the first Resident Evil experience for me was Code Veronica. I did play RE1 with my cousin. But yeah, I didn't. I never beat. I didn't have a GameCube, so for the remake and the Zero, I played at his house, but I never experienced the full game until it re-released in 2015. But that's so cool. I guess so. Did you play? I guess that was my question. Did you play RE1 and RE2 with your parents, or was it until Code Veronica that you actually started to play?
Oh no, I would say from probably 6 or 7 onwards, I was absolutely just knee deep in Resident Evil. Like my parents bought me the GameCube, and it had Resident Evil 0 and Resident Evil 1, which was totally bizarre at that time. It was like,
Yeah.
why is there a game called Resident Evil 0? Like, that makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
So that was an interesting experience. And obviously, I'd played Resident Evil 1, like the original, and seeing the remake was like just over the top scary. I couldn't play it. And when Resident Evil 4 came out in 2005, I really fondly remember picking up the GameCube version. They had a Toys R Us deal where you got Need for Speed Underground 2 and Resident Evil 4 is like a 2-pack deal. And we remembered, me and my brother remember going back and we're like, man, we can't wait to play Resident Evil 4. And we like got to the village and immediately like got decapitated by Dr. Salvador, as probably everyone did. And we
You know what, for
stopped
me,
playing it for about a year.
For me, I actually didn't, because I don't know if this is just me, but my experience is I never went in the house. And that's what triggers. And I also didn't go to like the other side where it also triggers them. I just kept running around in the village, and so it wasn't until my second playthrough I did it on professional as a kid, and then I was like, wait, what the, like I was like scared. I was like, what the, wait, he just decapitated me. I didn't know there was this just because it's on professional, or what's going on? I was a little freaked out. I had to take a break because yeah, that was that was my experience. But that's cool. That, yeah, I guess for me personally, Resident Evil 4 is what kind of solidified my whole Resident Evil experience, because Code Veronica, I remember as a kid playing, I was a little like I guess, how old was I guess I didn't play it when it came out. I played it a little after. I think it was like maybe 10 or so. And obviously I was a little younger when I played with my cousin with the R1 and 0. But yeah, I mean, it was hard. I mean, it was my first time. It kind of reminded me of, because before I got into the series with Dino Crisis, so Dino Crisis 1 and 2, it did feel more like Dino Crisis 1 in that aspect. But RE4 reminded me of Dino Crisis 2, so I think I just related more with it, just because of like the style of just, you know, going through and just blasting, getting ammo and stuff. But yeah. Thank you so much for stopping by, Rock. ZR Nalajmi. Hey, long time no see, man. And Leon S. Kennedy, thank you so much for stopping by. Yeah, he says, I wish I could pet that hunter from the short film. It was good. I remember Leon making a comment that, yeah, he really liked the hunter in the Keeper's Diary. Oh, and by the way, guys, is my camera acting a little weird? I am also using a new program called Split Cam, which kind of splits stuff. We'll see how that works. Hopefully it's good. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, if it's a little laggy, no, I think it's good. I think it's a little good. I don't know. We'll see. If it's good, then we'll just keep it for now. But let me know if there's any like problems with it as we stream. But yeah, I guess my second question too is, how long have you been in the, I guess, Resident Evil content creator space? Because we were talking before, and you said that is it true that you've been streaming for 10 years? How did that whole experience start, or when it was just content creation in general, I guess?
Yeah, so I suppose to kind of give a long story short, I've been streaming for a long time, various different platforms, personal platforms, blah blah blah, and I never really hit my niche. I always streamed Resident Evil, but I just couldn't break into that, like getting past 0 viewer thing. This was like back in 2013, 2014, 2015.
Oh, dang. That's early.
And it would have been when Resident Evil 2 Remake came out, that I was in a lot of the Facebook groups. So I was an admin of Resident Evil Stars Posting, which at the time was like the biggest Resident Evil shit posting like group. And I actually used to stream on my like personal Facebook profile in that group.
Yeah.
And like used to get like 70 viewers, 100 viewers, and I didn't want anything out of it. I just want to like talk with other like-minded Resident Evil fans. And I finally made a decision, like, man, this like Facebook's a really interesting platform to stream because no one's capitalizing on it. Like, I'm the only Resident Evil content creator on this platform. It's like running. It's like having a horse race, but there's only one horse. It's brilliant. And of course, I was an admin of the Stars posting page, so it was quite an easy cycle to generate a lot of followers very quickly and build up a base of like-minded Resident Evil fans. And that's where the idea of Biohazard Declassified come from. It really was like a meme sharing page on Facebook, and then it was like, oh, actually, I could take this quite far. Like, I started obviously streaming a lot on there, and especially when COVID hit, I think everybody was streaming. Or everyone was looking for a way of escapism from real life, because it was just an absolute mess at that point.
Yeah. A lot of streamers grew at that point, right? Yeah.
That's where it just completely exploded. Like, I went from like 500 viewers to like 50,000 viewers. Resident Evil 3 remake come out, and
dang, 50K viewers.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, followers, it's not viewers.
Oh,
followers.
I see.
Yeah, sorry, that was my fault. So yeah, ironically, when Resident Evil 3 came out, obviously it got a pretty mixed. It probably goes without saying, it got quite a mixed reception, but it was really good for Biohazard Declassified, because like I was just getting followers. Then we hit 100,000, and yeah, man, it was a bit of a dream until about 2021 when they changed the algorithm, because TikTok, to be honest, absolutely took the world by storm. That kind of short form content on the back of Vine just took the world by storm. Facebook, in my opinion, completely shat themselves and was like, we need to jump on this right now. And what they did was they just kind of canned the algorithm for the game streaming, which is really unfortunate, because it's a really interesting concept, streaming on Facebook gaming, because you're not hiding behind aliases. Like, look at everybody in the chat. No one's got their real name in the chat. There is a really unique feeling about not talking to Leon Kennedy, like you've got a viewer called Leon Kennedy in the chat. You're talking to Joe Blogs, like you're actually engaging with somebody else, a like-minded Resident Evil fan. And I've never really got trolls or anything like that, because everyone's on their own Facebook profile. So you're just like almost doxing yourself. It was
I never thought of that.
Honestly,
that's true.
Honestly, it was a really, like, I used to have like, 1,000 viewers, 2,000 viewer streams, didn't have a single moderator, because everyone just behaved themselves. It was a very interesting time. And as I said, they changed the algorithm, and they basically, it's not like Twitch and YouTube where people can find your streams very, very easily. Like Facebook, you really, really have to dig for them. And obviously, if the point is you've got to dig for them, your interaction and your reach is going to just be absolutely canned. Daily videos and daily like photo posts do extremely well, but the streaming just died. And yeah, it kind of got to the point where it's like, man, we need to not, and this goes for anyone, like top tier advice, never put your eggs in one basket. Don't matter if you've got 50 followers or you've got 500,000 followers, always spread your eggs where you can. Build your Instagram, build your Twitter, build your YouTube, because when that balloon pops, it's going to be extremely hard to build from nothing, especially if people can't easily reach you.
Yeah, and I guess nowadays there's so many creators, right? I mean, not just for Resident Evil, but I think there was like a study, I think 2 years ago, I think, that said that the average person follows like, I think 30 creators, and they really follow, I think 5. So, I mean, the problem is that, if Twitch disappeared, or, Instagram disappeared or whatever, and if somebody just followed you on there, and it does become forgettable, right, at the end of the day, where people are like, oh yeah, I used to watch that person every week, and then it's like, oh, what happened? So I guess that's another good reason to always get your audience to do. But it's really hard too. I mean, right? I mean, like you stated before that you had 185,000 people on Facebook, but I also have some people in my some of my viewers as well, they don't have Instagram or they don't have Twitter, so obviously you can't migrate everybody to one side or the other, but it's good to at least try to do that, right? And I guess to go back,
double-edged sword, actually, that's the double-edged sword of Facebook, is that, like I said about the doxing because you're using your real name, well, guess what, some people don't like that. Some people don't like the idea of real name engagement on streams, so you are effectively capping off potential viewership if you're not streaming elsewhere.
Definitely. Let me read some chats before, and I do want to go back too with with the whole timeline of when you started streaming. But let's just catch up real quick. Kay says, I've never played Dino Crisis before. I want to play it. Kay, you definitely have to. That's what basically got me into Resident Evil as a kid. Leon says, you guys think Dino Crisis and RE shares the same universe? What do you think, Andy? I think yes. I want to, but obviously there's no, to my knowledge, there's nothing that confirms that that's true.
Yeah.
What do you think?
It's not out of the realms of possibility because I think it's set in the future, isn't it, Dino Crisis? So I mean, it's logical. I think it would be probably lazy writing if it was, because I don't know. It's just all a bit convenient, isn't it? Oh, that one's set in the future. That one's set in the past.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's other game companies that have done that with like their IPs. Like I'm just thinking right now, BioWare, right? Like Mass Effect and Dragon Age. I was just
going to say, actually, I'm sure there's Umbrella crates in Dino Crisis.
Oh, is there
crates that have Umbrella on there? Yeah.
Oh.
Someone might have to fact check me on that, but I'm pretty confident there are Umbrella crates. So actually, yeah, disregard everything I just said.
Yeah. Okay, then that's awesome. Yeah. So that's great news, because I mean they're very similar. Obviously, they're made by the same creator, Shinji Mikami, right, and his team. So. I mean, yeah, I mean, when it comes to stuff like that, it's always great. I mean, it's always cool. And also, I mean, if we think of Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, right, they also had the Regina outfit, right? Didn't they?
Of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, they share, and obviously they're very different. But like in terms of story and stuff with time travel and Dino Crisis and dinosaurs, but I like to think so. Yeah. Rock says, around that time my friend was playing RE3 knife only, and he did it and made it through the game. Nice. Chance, hey Chance says, hi guys, Keeper's Diary was great, I loved it. Only thing I didn't get was with the other guy in the closet and not the keeper himself. Other than that, the best Resi film I've seen. Awesome job. Yeah, so that's actually a similar nitpick that I had. And guys, we are going to talk about those nitpicks later on in the stream. So make sure to stay tuned, because I do want to probe Andy and see for certain decisions, right, how it was and why they decided to go that route.
Absolutely. Yeah. If anybody has got a question or query, I've said this in all my streams as well. Please, please, please interrogate as much as you can. We should be held to account just like everybody else who makes Resident Evil films. And if this is going to be a thing where we are going to reach out to the community to crowdfund our projects, it is important that we share an open and honest relationship. So if you've got any questions about it, please absolutely reach out to us, and I'll do my best to facilitate your answer.
Yeah, and I think that's a really cool thing that you're doing. Not everybody's as open to criticism as you guys have been, you and Andrew especially in your streams that I saw previously. So that's awesome. And hey, Brandon Salisbury, how's it going, man? Hey, Andy.
Boy, I love that dude.
Yeah,
I love that dude.
Andy, way to go. Andy's awesome and supportive member of the RE community, definitely. And I guess going back to what I was saying before, because you mentioned that you've been doing it since 2013. So how was that? Because you mentioned that you were part of that Stars Facebook. That's where you started streaming. And until when did you, and like what year did Biohazard Declassified actually start?
So it would have been probably, because when did Resident Evil 2 come out?
2019, the remake, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
2019.
Yeah, the remake. Yeah. So it would have been like probably 5 or 6 months. I would have streamed on that Stars posting page on my personal profile. You can go to that Star. I'm kind of doxing myself, but you can literally go on that Stars posting page, type my name in, and you can find my old streams from like 2019 in there.
That's awesome.
You can literally see them today. So that's kind of like a weird like archive in history. But yeah, I made the transition over. I thought it'd probably be a sensible decision to kind of set up my own brand, set up my own platform, and just start growing from there, really.
I see. So 2019, and then it popped off right away, you said, right? Like 2020. So I guess just 1 year, and that's where things started really kicking off for you. And I guess we'll read a couple of chats since we're almost caught up. Leon says, bruh, RE6 got T-Rex Simmons. Yeah, we've talked about that. One of the worst parts.
True. I didn't think of that.
The worst parts of Resident Evil 6 is the Simmons boss battles, like the 7 fights that you have to do, or like, I don't know, 5 or 4 or whatever. Raccoon City Pizza says, hope we get an RE2 film. Yeah, are you referring to Andy, like doing that, or you mean like just in general? And Kay says, do you think RE8 is similar to RE4? It feels like first person RE4. I mean, what do you think, Andy? For me personally, I will have to say no. I mean, they tried to. Didn't they say that they wanted to make RE8 kind of like RE4, but for me, it didn't feel like it. What do you think, Andy?
So we talk about Resident Evil Village being
being similar to RE4. What do you think about that?
Well, it was a really interesting time because if you look everything pre-Resident Evil 4 remake, I truly believe from when they started in 2017 with Resident Evil 7, everything was working to a point, and that the apex of that point was Resident Evil 4. You look at Resident Evil Village, for example, it had the merchant.
Yeah.
It had like collectibles and stuff like that. It had that trading system. It had the similar, even had this like Resident Evil 7 and 8 had that similar inventory. The RE engine, of course.
The
even
village.
some of the enemies are kind of similar.
Yeah, I guess technically the village, right?
The village, yeah, obviously. Yeah. you know,
and then
village,
the castle,
yeah,
and then the factory kind of it was similar to the island, I guess, with all the metal and stuff.
So absolutely, I really believe that Capcom were learning every time they put out a title with the intention that kind of the apex, the absolute highest point of their learning is Resident Evil 4. They put everything they learned of the RE engine, of storytelling, of kind of retconning Resident Evil again, with the intention to produce one of the best games of all time, which the intention was to be Resident Evil 4 remake.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I still have to say that it felt different. Like I still think Resident Evil 8, it's its own thing, especially with House Beneviento and it being very different than what, like something that we've never seen before in Resident Evil. Like it was that section was just pure horror, right? I mean, you just like also the fact that it was kind of like a walking simulator, and I guess the first experience I think was the best for everybody. But then after, if you like, I got the platinum like in 3 weeks, so me grinding that, I was tired of it at the end of it. but yeah, no, definitely. Raccoon City Pizza says, yes, Andy, a Resident Evil 2 fan film. Yeah, I guess, we'll answer that. What do you think, Andy? I mean, would you love to do a Resident Evil 2 fan film? I think yes would be the answer, right?
Yeah, I mean, Resident Evil 2 is the original Resident Evil 2 is like my favorite game of all time, like bar none. Nothing beats it. Honestly, that period of time, that 1998 was just a crazy year in gaming. Just unbelievable bangers come out in that year, like Metal Gear Solid, Tomb Raider. I think Tomb Raider 3 come out in that year. Obviously Resident Evil 2, Half-Life. Just oh my god, so many absolute banging titles.
Yeah, I never thought of that, but yeah, you're right. That's true. Yeah, I guess you would have been 3, right? You would have been 3, right? In 1990? Yeah. Because we're the same age. I would have been 4, so yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah. But yes, absolutely. Like, I would love the opportunity to do a Resident Evil 2 short, definitely a Resident Evil 2 short film.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'd do it on though. I think that a lot of people have said The Watchman's Diary.
Yes,
that would be a really, really good starting point.
Yeah, and that was something that I actually asked Andrew. I ended up cutting it out because I didn't make my question very, like in my first interview, I didn't make it like it was clear after, but after Andrew's answer, because I did ask him, I'm like, because we've had several of like the Keeper's diaries and several other Resident Evils. Like, for example, even Resident Evil 5 had a Keeper's diary. If you go in the village and you see, the talking about how the villagers churned and it looked like a Zulu-esque village. Obviously it's not Zulu, or else that would be like, culturally not good for Capcom to showcase a native group. But it was like, Zulu-esque, and yeah, something like that I've always thought would have been cool to see, right? And especially after seeing what you guys did with the amazing work with the Keeper's Diary, but seeing the Watchmen.
You also had the Keeper's Diary. You also had the Keeper's Diary in Lost in Nightmares.
Yeah.
There was I think it was literally the same file. So.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I'm kind of remembering something like that, but where was that exactly? Actually, I'm curious now.
so if you go upstairs in the Lost in Nightmares DLC, and you turn right, it's like literally one of the first files you read. I'm pretty sure it is. I'm pretty sure. I could be guessing.
Oh, is that the East Wing, second floor, where you go into like the bedroom?
Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure it's that room.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that again. Raccoon City Fee says, bro, I was 16 days old when RE2 released. I see, back in 1992. Yeah, we were all pretty much kids. Nicolau says, but RE2 original still be legend until now with the new generation. Raccoon City Pizza, yeah. So the Black Liquid and 4 remake is the mold from RE8. Black Liquid and 4 remake. I don't understand. What do you mean? Like, I'm just thinking right away like Resident Evil 3.5. Is that what you mean, Raccoon? But yeah. But anyways, I guess we'll move on. I guess the next thing I also wanted to ask was your kind of involvement. So the way the timeline, as my understanding is that you basically started in 2013 streaming, which I also have to ask too, before I continue with my question, is how was that streaming in 2013? I mean, I imagine things were very limited. What was the output, I guess, of...
Oh man, it was absolute arse, dude. It was like
like potato webcams.
Yeah, I mean, obviously OBS, you still had OBS.
Yeah.
You still could do YouTube streaming at that point. Back in those times, like USB 3 was a real infancy. So the Elgato like HD 60, for example, just wasn't a thing. Like you didn't have... The best way I can explain it is like efficient data capture. So I had a HD PVR1, and basically you could plug it into your computer. As a capture card, you could plug into your computer, but there was like a second and a half delay. So you would have to delay your webcam and delay your audio by a second and a half to like make everything sync up.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's easy now to stream than it's ever been, and that's why there is such an influx of content creators, because the bar is not lower. That's a crude way of saying it, but it's
the entry level.
Yeah, the barrier to entry is just extremely low, and when you lower the barrier to entry, that's what causes oversaturation and struggling to break through algorithms and stuff like that.
Complete global saturation, of course. And I guess, yeah, but I mean, the other good thing too with having an influx of people, I will say, is that, for example, you get a lot of people that kind of do different things, because if there is a whole oversaturation in a field, you do get people that have to obviously break through that, and so the creativity kind of jumps. Because obviously before, I mean, I've heard this from other streamers that have streamed earlier on, and they said that OBS was very basic. Like there wasn't a lot of plugins, there wasn't a lot of like different cool things that you could do with it. But now, I mean, nowadays, I mean, like the plugins are crazy, right? I mean, they're really great. So yeah, I mean, even as somebody that doesn't use OBS, I've never used OBS, but yeah, I can appreciate that, right? That there's so many people, there's so many videos about that. But anyways, going back to my question, yeah, so you basically started in 2019 with Biohazard Declassified, went to 2020 where it was really big. When did you join the Residents of Evil? I definitely want to know how that process was. How did you meet JJ? When was that? When did that start?
So being in the circles, and at that point, I think Residents of Evil would have probably broken 100,000 at that point. Pretty confident. We've always kind of danced around each other in the space. Like we've always known each other, always been super friendly. And in 2021, I was mentioning this off stream, but we got a huge scoop about Resident Evil Village because we knew people who had played the playtest at that point.
Yeah.
And this was like 6 months before release. This was before the state of play, the first ever state of play, which kind of showed all of that amazing gameplay and had the big Resident Evil Village reveal. And we like went into detail. We did a couple of videos on it, and a lot of large creators, which will obviously remain nameless, were like just completely shitting on the idea. That was like, werewolves, Romania, and it makes no sense. It's gonna be castle first person. Chris going to be evil. What's going on? And obviously, when the game came out, everybody absolutely loved it and pretended that it was almost like everyone got neuralized by the
everyone got real quiet.
And so it was a really interesting time, and we actually had a little bit of a kind of a content agreement at the time with JJ that I'd come up with like an article, and I would give that to JJ. He'd make a video out of it, because it goes without saying the Residents of Evil is the biggest platform, biggest dedicated Resident Evil platform, and actually they're just about to surpass the actual Resident Evil YouTube page. They're like
that's
neck and
awesome.
neck right now.
That's
it's
awesome.
absolutely crazy. But obviously, Welcome to Raccoon City was coming out.
Yes.
And
that's what skyrocketed my channel when I first started. So even though it was really bad, I guess it's similar to what you were saying before, right? With 2020 and RE3 remake, where you kind of got a jump in viewership. That's
Yeah.
basically what happened to me with Welcome to Raccoon City.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose what we ended up doing, because I got friendly with a lot of different creators like Ink Ribbon, and of course JJ and the rest of the Row team at the time, and they was like, guys, let's go to Vegas and let's watch Welcome to Raccoon City. So
yeah, I watched that actually. I watched that video. Yeah, I watched it on Ink's. I watched Ink Ribbon's kind of perspective because he vlogged it. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So yeah, and that's the first time I actually saw you. Now that I think about it, it's the first time I saw you.
Yeah. So we had an unbelievable time. I actually paid for an entire theater, and there was like just Resident Evil content creators. It was fantastic, man. It was absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
Susie was there, Ink was there.
Yeah.
Obviously, JJ, Corey, and Tony were there. It was and Beggy, excuse me, as well. So at that point, I wasn't really like doing stuff with her. I did a couple of content deals with them, and 2020 it would have been 2022 come round, and I can't remember how it all came about. I think I just said to JJ, listen, like, we're obviously both extremely passionate Resident Evil creators. Goes without saying. We both need to do stuff together. We need to do more together because we will get the best out of each other if we do that. And he said, well, listen, I'm kind of relaunching the Twitch account at that point. And he said, well, it'd be a good idea for you to, start streaming on Twitch. And that's where the origins of our kind of team relationship were at. So I did quite a few streams over on the Twitch and just naturally amalgamated in. This is obviously before Keeper's Diary and all that sort of fun stuff.
Yeah, I see. So to my understanding, what you just to reiterate, what you basically stated was that back in like 2021, you were making like you made a content deal with him, and I guess just an agreement where you were just making like scripting videos for him, essentially.
Yeah, or like passing because at that time it was like talking about village leaks, so it was obviously passing information.
Yeah.
To JJ. JJ credits us. He makes the video.
Yeah.
It goes without saying the Resident Evil is the best place to put Resident Evil content that will get the most viewership. So that was the real origins. But there was at that point there was no discussion about do you want to come on board or anything like that. It was just like listen, man, egos aside, like we all want to be massive Resident Evil creators, but let's say it how it is. You got the bigger platform. I want to get this idea out. Do a video on it.
I see. Yeah. So I guess it's very similar to, recently I actually talked to Raccoon City Pizza. He was kind of doing that. He was offering videos to different creators and stuff. So that's cool. And let's catch up with some chats, guys. I'm sorry we missed some. We have to catch up again. 1 second. Waterhall Black Liquid, same liquid poured in Ashley's mouth for the ritual. I see. Yeah. The water room. Yeah, I see. Do you think, Kay says, do you think Resident Evil 1 should be in the Hall of Fame? Definitely. I mean, it kind of
already is.
Yeah, the Guinness World Record, right, for the worst voice acting.
No, that actually, it's been archived in the. Hang on.
And what are the video games?
Yeah, there's like a video game Hall of Fame, and
nice.
Yeah, Resident Evil 1 is in that. So yeah, absolutely, Resident Evil 1. It does deserve it. It's a really, really unique title. Holds a lot of nostalgic memories for a lot of people and
sparks
set an entire trend for an entire genre, man. Absolutely.
It sparks fan films, which is awesome. By the way, if I haven't made that well known, I think Andy and Andrew Sallow and the whole team at Residents of Evil, right? Everybody that worked on the Keeper's Diary, I think you guys did fantastic. I guess that's why I reviewed it and gave it a 9 because I thought you guys did a phenomenal job. But anyways, let's continue real quick. Brandon says, I'm fairly old, LOL. I was 14 when Resident Evil 2 came out. Hearing people say that they were 0 to 3 years old makes my knees hurt. Yeah. Well, I was 4 technically.
Now, old man.
Yeah, I was 4, but yeah, I was just a baby. If Kyle says, Barry, where's Barry? I hope this isn't Chris's blood. Chris, our old partner, Brandon says, RE1 was the reason PS1 became the gaming platform of the late 90s. It was the Sony's first game to sell 1 million copies on PS1. It also codified the entire genre. No, definitely, yeah. Kyle says, so glad you made this short film. Would love a full feature film one day, Andy. Yeah, definitely. Brandon says, full features.
We'll go into that later. We'll go into that. I do want to talk about that.
Definitely. Brandon says full features cause legal headaches. Very easy to get shut down by Constantine Films, who has exclusive rights to live action RE. Definitely, but there are ways around that for sure. I mean, definitely. If I'm actually just thinking of Star Wars Theory as well, right? Who kind of made a Star Wars. He made a fan film for Star Wars and got away with it, and actually asked with the lawyers and stuff, but he obviously could not monetize anything. So I actually don't know. Maybe, who knows, maybe Constantine, if you guys start making, banger films, banger after, one after the next, especially with The Keeper's Diary, maybe Constantine might not like what you guys are doing, right? I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully it stays under the radar.
Absolutely. And, legally speaking, they are absolutely within their rights to shut our shit down.
Yeah.
Capcom did reach out to us, and very early on, we will talk about that when we go on to the Keeper's Diary portion, because it was a really, really interesting conversation that your viewers are really, really going to like.
And what's weird too is that I think that happened. You guys got approached by Capcom during the last interview I did with you were actually I didn't mention this, but Andy was supposed to be in that interview, but there was because we had we were going to have 3 people, so there was time zones, we were fighting all of that. So obviously Andy couldn't join us at that time. But speaking real quick, I was going to mention, I did during that interview with Andrew and Charlie, I did tell them that I was going to reach out and let everybody know at the Capcom creators. And right after, the week after, I noticed that Capcom approached you, and I'm like, oh shoot, was that me? Sure. But we'll talk about that after. We'll catch up real quick.
Just a quick one. Brandon, if you don't know do you know who Brandon Salisbury is, by the way, in the chat?
Yes. No, Brandon, actually, we talked right away. When he announced that he was making his documentary about the George Romero, and how George Romero was going to make a Resident Evil game. That's when we officially talked. I covered it on the channel roughly 2 years ago, and that's going to come out soon, right? I noticed Brandon did do an interview with Ro, right, in Resident Evil. I watched part of it, but it was very busy in the week, so I have to finish that interview with.
It was a fantastic interview, man. We to put it in this context, basically, when we were shooting The Keeper's Diary, we reached out to Brandon, or at least I had the idea at that time. I was like, listen, we're going to be on set. I'd really want to shoot an interview with Brandon. I don't want to just do, and obviously it goes without saying, this is not disrespect or anything like that. But I didn't want to do a Discord interview with Brandon. I truly believe that what he brings to the table with his passion for George A. Romero and Resident Evil, it needs something more substantial. And I just thought, listen, we're going to be in Michigan shooting The Keeper's Diary on these elaborate Resident Evil 1 sets. We need to get this man sat down with JJ on the Residents of Evil to shoot an interview. I edited it, and we got it up on the Residents of Evil.
Interesting.
Really,
so that was shot back in, I imagine, October, right? Of what was it, last year?
And Brandon was a great help, by the way. A real great asset on set. He did a lot of stuff, kind of as a gesture of goodwill on set, which we're extremely grateful for, helping us put together bits and pieces on the set and making things dirty, especially with the lab, man. There's a great shot, behind the scenes shot of Brandon holding a mitten. And man, he's a funny guy. I love that dude.
And Brand, I don't know if you could let us know when that's releasing, your movie, George Romero's Resident Evil, because I've been hyped. I've been hyped as soon as I heard about it back in, I think, 2022 when I covered it. Andy also had a hand in helping George A. Romero's Resident Evil. That's awesome. If you could elaborate more, Andy, how was that? You also helped in
Yes, I provided a lot of footage for Brandon. Brandon wanted a lot of footage of the games, so I kind of put a lot of that together. Resident Evil 1, 2. I think I might have even given him 3. I can't remember.
Nice. So I guess when we see those scenes, it's Andy. That's awesome. Right? Yeah. You're in the document.
That's the true beauty, man. That's the true beauty of collaborative efforts, man.
Kyle says, I know Brandon loved it so much. I wanted an hour and a half of just the mansion. Yeah, nice. Resident Evil 1 will always have a special place in my heart. Too many legendary quotes. Exactly. Okay, we're almost caught up, guys. RE1 was a masterpiece. Original RE1 will always be my favorite. Brandon says the atmosphere, story, just the entire game was perfect. Yes, I I hold it above OG RE2, if I'm being 100% honest. I don't know. I couldn't get into the atmosphere of RE2, the OG, and I know that's probably blasphemy for a lot of Resident Evil fans. I don't know. For me, I like the atmosphere of the first one more, and I actually prefer it more than the remake, which is, I don't know, it's funny, but yeah, it's definitely different. I don't know. I find it creepy that there's just a well-lit mansion in the woods and all the lights are turned on. Obviously, you know, back in the day, they probably couldn't do shadows and stuff with all the polygons, but but I don't know. That's just my favorite. I mean, wasn't there like one room that was kind of darker with right before you fight Yawn, but yeah, Brandon says, yeah, yes, original. Yeah. Kyle says, watching Andy on Facebook through COVID really helped my mental health and helped me get through it all. To be enthusiastic Resident Evil fans was a real joy. Oh, I didn't know, Kyle. Yeah, that's you've been a long time viewer of Andy.
Kyle. Appreciate it.
Yeah, that's George Trevor's Fate, a Biohazard Store. Okay, Brandon says, I was on set of The Keeper's Diary. I felt almost killed me. Oh, the days I was on set on The Keeper's Diary, I felt almost killed me. LOL. I was helping 18 plus hours days because I love these guys, but I'm old. I need naps, guys. Yeah, I mean that's definitely the case with any, I guess, set, right? A movie set. But I guess if you guys were doing a lot of other stuff, right? I mean, you weren't just waiting around, you were actually helping, then I guess it would be a long 18 hours. But sometimes, I mean, I've been on a lot of movie sets as well, but sometimes when you're just sitting there, it's kind of worse in my opinion. Just because you're not doing anything and just the day just drains really quick. But yeah, Brandon says, see Paramount's cases against fan films for the president when fans make things a little too good. Yeah. Kyle says, yeah, I worked on film sets. They're really long days. Exactly. Yeah. Romero's still on the job. Nick Klaus says, Brandon says, I wasn't meant to work on set. I was just hanging out and started working on sets. I see. So you just got brought in free labor, I guess.
Nah, there's no way. There is no way that Brandon comes on set and he does not get involved, man. I'm Doctor Strange in this scenario. I do not see a future where Brandon walks onto a live Resident Evil set with authentic Resident Evil
knowledge
areas and doesn't get involved, man. It doesn't happen.
That's a good point. Yeah, any Resident Evil fan would just be like freaking out, and you'd be wanting to get involved, right? And there's no way you just be, I'm going to wait in the corner, guys. Reddit says it's the distributors going through the festival circuits, waiting just like everyone else. That's amazing, Brandon. Well, yeah, I'll make sure to review it as well and have a look at it and kind of let my viewers know when it releases. Because, like I said, I've been hyped for 2 years now. 2 years. Kyle says, really looking forward to it, Brandon. Good luck with it, mate. Your RE license has been revoked. Like in the OG RE1, more than the remake was a strike one. Now this Raccoon City beats. No, I'm sorry. I don't know. It's just, I mean, at the end of the day, it's all personal opinion, right? But yeah, you know what interestingly enough, I actually, just really quick, I actually really like RE2 remake. That kind of made me kind of appreciate RE2 a lot more, looking at it in a different light. It's because I guess for me, when I first played it, I actually didn't grow up with it. I never grew up with RE2. I didn't play it until it released for PlayStation in 2010. But for me, I one of the sections that I really didn't like was the whole atmosphere of like the factory, the lab. But it looked like, I don't know, I didn't like all the polygons on the walls. And RE2 remake did a phenomenal job of making it look all modernized, where like it actually felt like a lab, in my opinion. But that's just me, right? Yeah.
But isn't that the true beauty of Resident Evil? Is because it's been out so long, there are so many different interpretations of Resident Evil, and the absolute war crime of saying always here is you're not a true Resident Evil fan because X, Y, Z. Well, not being funny, somebody tell me what the unified interpretation of Resident Evil is, because there isn't. There are people that love the action horror in Resident Evil 4. There are people who love the original games like me. There are people that just love the remakes. There's even people that just love the Paul W.S. Anderson film. Yeah, they are out there.
Yeah,
they are.
But they're still fans. They're still fans at the end of the day.
Exactly, absolutely, and that's the true beauty, is that Resident Evil has constantly reinvented itself for good and for bad.
Yeah, and you know what? I heard. I actually don't know if it was I think I watched your interview. I think you were talking with the creator. It was a long time ago. I think you were doing interviews with a bunch of different creators. I don't remember who it was because I watched a bunch of them when you released them. You were doing it for a specific channel. I don't remember the name, but that you did have a discussion with one creator that, and you were bringing up the fact that this creator was getting kind of bullied online, and a lot of people were calling him a fake fan. And that was actually the first time I actually heard that this was happening in the space, because that's never happened on my channel. I've never had somebody that, it doesn't even make any sense. Also, I mean, if you like what we just discussed, right? I mean, if you could like the movies, you can like, the action games, you can like the OG games, and regardless, it still makes you a fan, right? I mean, you can even like the Netflix series. It technically is still Resident Evil, right? Even though it's not, it's like its own universe. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, but that's a very good point where, yeah, there are people out there that are very like, no, you're not a fan, you're not this. I mean, for me personally, I state that there's more casual fans, there's more hardcore fans, there's more, but at the end of the day, we're still all fans. Like you can't just say that you're not a fan to somebody, right? It's, yeah. But anyways, guys, let's actually move on to the Keeper's Diary section. We're kind of touching a little bit on it, but my first question was, obviously, you guys shot this back in October, and I've heard that you stated as well that you shot in Michigan. That's up in the north, right? That's like right underneath, I think, Ontario for me in Canada. How was it? Yeah. How was filming in October? Because that's when like winter starts in Canada. So, and since Michigan, I think it's right on the border.
It was right? Shit, man. It was like terrible.
What was the temperature? What was the temperature of that? As a Canadian, I gotta know.
Yeah. Are you Celsius?
Yeah, Celsius. Yes, I do Celsius.
Okay, right, yeah. So I'm sure it was like the early teens. It wasn't actually as cold as I thought, but because we was in a large, like, dilapidated warehouse, it just felt so much colder than it was. And there was no heating, so it was brutal. But just where JJ lives, and I don't know if he's actually said publicly where he lives, so obviously I don't want to dox him.
Don't.
But where JJ lives is such a remote part of Michigan. But it was such a unique opportunity because we just had so much space to work with, which is really good when you're building sets and you need the space. But so I flew from London to Chicago, drove 5-6 hours up north in my grip truck.
Dang, 6 hours a day. And that must have been long, especially you're from the UK, so everything's 6 hours. You're like in France, right? Or you're like in another country.
Yeah, exactly. If I drive 6 hours, dude, I'm in like Spain or Portugal. Like, it's crazy. But obviously that's after a 7 or 8 hour flight from like London to Chicago. Then it's like now we're driving 5 hours up to Michigan. Shot there for 5 days, and then the kennel shoot was actually in like, because we was up in the Upper Peninsula. The kennel shoot was actually in like mainland, well, not mainland, like I guess I don't know if it's called the Lower Peninsula or like mainland, like where Detroit is and stuff like that side of Michigan. So that was like a 7 hour drive. So as someone from the UK, dude, if you're driving anywhere like more than 4 hours, you run out of land, like straight up. So it was an eye-opening experience.
And also, I guess, like, if you look at America too, there's I mean, what I've seen from the UK, because I grew up watching British television, because my mom is she always watches British television, British crime shows. Graham Norton, I've been watching since I was little. But my understanding is that you have so many little towns, right? You're always hitting something. Yeah. But like in Michigan, there's going to be like very spaced out towns and like in the middle of nowhere.
Like you're driving, and the thing with the UK is because it is small.
Yeah,
you're not really like on straight roads for a long time. Like you could be driving on a single road for like 200 miles and nothing appears. It's a complete culture shock for me. And obviously driving on the other side of the road was the first time I'd ever driven on the other side of the road as well. So that was a complete culture shock.
Yeah. And was that the first time that you visited, like, have you ever gone to Canada, or you've ever visited like the north side of America? Because I remember you were telling me before you went to Las Vegas, right? I think that's where you guys did the whole shoot, right? With Welcome to Raccoon City.
Yeah. So I've been to New York. I've been to Chicago now, and I've been to Vegas twice. So I love the US. If I had the opportunity and I didn't own a house in the UK, I would absolutely just uproot my life and move to the US.
Yeah. And I mean, what I've seen too is that in the UK, it's a lot more affordable to get a house compared to, I mean, Canada's crazy. And I know in the US, there's certain locations where it's still reasonable, but But like I imagine Michigan, I imagine is pretty reasonable. But like, yeah, like Canada's crazy right now. Like you have to be a millionaire to own a house. It's just
It's
crazy.
man.
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
But that's cool. So it was you. So according, it was like more like in the teens, like -12, minus like. I see. So it wasn't too cold.
It was cold.
But what was the situation? Because you said you were in like a warehouse. Is that where? Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that where JJ is actually doing his new set? Because I think I heard that a couple of months ago, right, or so, something like that.
Yeah. So basically, I think JJ's father owned it was like an iron castings factory warehouse type thing. So it had like an office block in it, and then it had like the extended like hangar type warehouse setup, which was all open space. It was dirty as hell, and that's why they've I'm imagining on the back of Keeper's Diaries, that's why they chose to renovate it, because it was like, oh wow, we've got all this space, let's turn it into a little studio.
Oh, I see. Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, that was, but it wasn't a studio when we got there. Let me tell you. Let me tell you, it was.
I see. So you had. So how was that process? You guys have to build like all the drywalls, everything. You did the whole building. And when did you guys start that? Like what was it like? For example, did Andrew get there before everyone else got there, or did you guys all work on it as soon as you guys were there? How long was the shoot dates? How long was that?
Yeah, so we would have got, so Andrew got out there the week before.
I see.
And built the sets with one of our executive producers, Rob Knorr, who was actually a producer on Resident Evil Arclay.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
yeah.
I remember hearing it from your channel. Yeah.
So he was a big contributor in the crowdfunding campaign, and actually came out to. We actually had 3 different producers come out and watch us shoot the Keeper's Diary. Whilst and actually they didn't just sit there and sit back. They all got involved. They all helped us out, and they all helped us get it over.
Like Brandon, so you just brought him in to help.
Yeah, it was like, man, it's all hands on deck. You only get one opportunity. We may only ever get one opportunity to do this. So
yeah.
But yeah, Andrew got out there the week before, and let me tell you, it was extremely stressful. I think looking back, we probably would have hired a carpenter, because Andrew had a lot on his plate anyway, with like obviously
directing,
doing the producing side and actually directing the film. Like, if we could go back in time, definitely would have allocated budget for a carpenter to just go in there and make it happen. A carpenter and a labourer just to make it happen. Because even when I got there, the idea was the first week, Monday to Sunday, they built all the sets. And then when we turn up, so I turned up with Resident Evil Challenger, Nuji.
Yeah.
Who was the director of photography. For photography. And and Let's Talk Resident Evil with Anthony. So we turned up on the Monday afterwards, and like there was so much to do. And it was like, dude, we've got like 6 days to shoot this, which doesn't sound a lot for a short film, but let me tell you, like there's a lot that was left on the cutting room floor. In Andrew's edit, so there was a lot of footage that was shot, and it was very, very difficult. Obviously,
there's deleted scenes, is what you're saying. There's stuff that was cut out that you guys
so much deleted scenes, but we shot a lot of different camera angles which weren't selected for the final edit.
Yeah,
and maybe in the next 6 months or so, I'd definitely like to revisit that as part of my own edit. And basically recut the Keeper's Diary into a vision that incorporates some of the elements. Because ultimately, I think the best way a director and a producer works is the director's vision. I mean, at the end of the day, it's Andrew Sorlow's The Keeper's Diary, as it says in the title. It's not Andy Cox's The Keeper's Diary. I believed in Andrew's vision, and it's my job to help him bring that vision to life by bringing in the absolute best team to facilitate that. And I truly believe we did that.
Yeah, and I guess that's definitely the role of a producer, right? And that's a very good point, because like even if we're looking at like the Resident Evil films with like executive producers, sometimes they go and they get their hands in the pot, or they ask for crazy unreasonable things to be added in the movie to kind of have identity in it. So that's definitely like the core job of a producer, right? Is not to get in the way of the director, but to complement the director. I guess 100%. Another question I also had that I forgot to ask was, what's your experience with producing? Because I remember hearing in your live stream that you said that you also you studied at film school, right?
Yeah. So I have a degree in film, and I've always done short films. It goes without saying, what we've achieved is on this scale is something we've not done before. We goes without saying, leaned heavily into the fact that we were Resident Evil content creators, but looking back, we were completely untested to this level. But we were extremely passionate about the project, and I believe that sometimes you just need that chance, don't you? You need that chance to deliver. Not being funny, still Steven Spielberg, and I'm not necessarily comparing myself to them, obviously, but Steven Spielberg, James Cameron, their first films weren't multi-million-dollar blockbusters, but they got given a chance once to deliver a high-level project, and this was our opportunity to do that.
Yeah, same with like George Lucas, right? I think his first like, you know, film was very rough, but obviously if we didn't have that, we wouldn't have had Star Wars, right? So no, definitely that's a very good point. Like, and it's also funny how all of them were all buddies, right? Like all of the, like was it Frank Coppola, I mean George Lucas, what's the other guy? I think Brian De Palma. I think they're all buddies. They all made like crazy movies, but but they all started in the indie scene, right? So it is very important. Obviously, every director has to start somewhere, right? Or every producer as well. Yeah. But and I see. What was your experience like before? You said that you've worked on other short films. What did you specifically study at film school? Was it just like a bit of everything, or how does that work? Because I've never been to a film school or anything like that. Very curious to know.
So I mean, it was just. The course was called film, and it was a bachelor's of arts. So you covered script writing, you covered a bit of television production. So like we actually ran sets and that sort of thing. Obviously, this is just like field work. It's not like an actual product. Like making a short film yourself is different than delivering a product to somebody. You know, like what we've done here. Yeah. So yeah, I mean. All of us are passionate about film. Andrew works for like a helicopter company, and he works for a film agency. He's used to doing films all the time. Luke he works for the UFC on a like daily basis.
That's Resident Evil Challenger, right? Dang, that's so cool.
He works all over the place.
I did not know that.
He's worked for UFC. He's worked for BBC. He's an award-winning, like, Luke is honestly the real deal, and we'll get into how we kind of pieced if we got time to talk about that.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Kind of how this all came about. Obviously, Andrew he self-funded a teaser trailer for The Keeper's Diary, and it's so weird when you go back and see it, because you're like, man, that's where it was, and this is where it is now.
I remember watching that, like, and his channel, right? Like the very rough draft, like his storyboard, and what was interesting too is that the final product was very similar. Like it was exactly what, I mean, that's what the storyboard is, right? You do that. So it's almost like you're making a mind map. You're sorting everything in, and then you just bring it to life, right? So it was cool to see, like, for example, I'm remembering the hunter scene where it was all drawn out and stuff with Wesker being there. And then, you know, we see that with the keepers. It's cool to see, you know, storyboard being drawn into life, right? Because
that is actually what we wanted to achieve with the crowdfunding campaign. None of us had ran a crowdfunding campaign before to this scale, so we had to. When I created the crowdfunding campaign, it was very much like, listen, we need people to trust us on this. We need to come across like we are Resident Evil fans. We have people's best interests at heart, and this isn't me just like saying this. Like, we genuinely believe this. People want to know are going to want to know how the money's spent, where it's going to be spent, what they're going to get out of it, and how it's going to be implemented. And most importantly, and this is one criticism I don't get, is how long the film's going to be and what the film's going to look like. So in that campaign, we included that storyboard video. So it's a very, to me anyway, but you know, obviously we'll talk about criticisms, but it's very bizarre to me that people are saying, oh, I thought it was going to be longer, when, I mean, we expressly detailed in our crowdfunding campaign, this was going to be a 12-minute video. And even that storyboard was like a one-to-one shot for shot what we actually did shoot. So,
and I think that was even shorter, wasn't it? If I remember correctly, I think the story was shorter. Yeah. So we actually
delivered on it.
You actually over-delivered, yeah, definitely. And I guess kind of going with that too, how did you guys feel? Because I remember when we were just talking about the teaser, when you guys did release the teaser, I did remember hearing Andrew, and I think he brought this up in the interview, as how the first interview is how some people were kind of being a little nitpicky, because I remember the first one you saw, like, Jill's beret, and it had like the Stars logo, and people were I think people were pissed. What was that like when you first heard like the teaser and people's criticisms on that? and how did that affect the final
So,
product? What were your guys'
so
thoughts on that?
are you talking about the
The
which
first
teaser?
teaser.
Because we've really,
The
the
teaser with
first
the
teaser.
like with the stars logo with I think
Oh,
if I
so the
remember
one that
correctly it just
Andrew shot.
yes, I think I
Yeah.
showed Jill
Okay.
going down the hall. I think that was it. It was
Yes.
just very yeah. How did you guys feel I guess what my question is at the end of the day is when starting this, I mean obviously the pressure's on, right? Because this is you but obviously the pressure's on, but you also have to remember too that the bar isn't set very high, especially with all of like the Constantine films. Like everything's been kind of they've had a huge budget, and what they've done with it is pretty awful.
Yeah.
So I mean, how did you guys feel going into the whole production, and obviously dealing with any sort of criticism at the start? Were you guys like, okay, let's make sure like everybody we have 5 Resident Evil or
Let's
how many
report
ever?
this to Wesker.
Yeah, let's report this to Wesker. Thank you so much. Who did that? Nora Nivens. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, let's report this to Wesker. But when you were guys starting that whole process, and you have like however many Resident Evil creators in the room, where you're all like, did you guys catch any errors while you guys were doing it? And you're like, no, this has to be over here, this has to be over there. How was that? Did that happen? Is what I'm asking. I guess.
Yeah, on set we did have times when it was like that, and that really was the true beauty of the Keeper's Diary, is that everyone that worked on it, actually outside of the actors, taking Charlie out of the equation, but the other actors, they weren't Resident Evil fans, but everybody who worked on it was an inside outside Resident Evil fan. The composer, massive Resident Evil fan. Andrew, massive Resident Evil fan. Makeup artist, massive Resident Evil fan. Like honestly, everybody, it was almost like you had 10 different continuity managers on set. It was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is Andrew's film.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter. Andrew may take your comments on board.
Yeah.
But it's Andrew's film.
Yeah.
Andrew brought us to this dance.
Yeah, he's the captain.
Yes,
right?
obviously, I created the crowdfunding campaign and assembled the crew. But this is Andrew's film. It's Andrew Sorlow's Keeper's Diary. So at the end of the day, his word is the most important word.
Yeah, and I guess we'll go over the criticism right away. Like, for example, like even in my video, in my review that I had, I did mention obviously like when I went to my criticism section, which I call nitpicks because they're very minute criticisms, and at the end of the day, it didn't really affect the score of what I gave the review. But even with that, there were certain things where I kind of didn't mention because obviously it's due to creative like it's the person's creative input. Like for example, I mentioned for example the Scott having like this like the umbrella soldier outfit, seeing Hunk in the thing. Obviously that was not part of the games, but obviously it doesn't hurt to have that. It's just creative. It's creative. Was it expression? I'm losing the word of what I mentioned in the video, but you know what I mean, right? Like it's at the end of the day. Yeah. So
that is a very interesting. That's what really brought me into the Keeper's Diary, seeing that storyboard, is how Andrew, we have obviously created a faithful adaptation of the Keeper's Diary, but we have taken some liberty in some areas.
Creative liberties. That's the word I was looking for.
I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility, because in Resident Evil 1, the original, Scott actually doesn't fucking exist. Like he's not anywhere to be seen. Like he's not on the floor like he is in remake. But it's not out of the realms of possibility that the USS would be there.
Yeah.
And I think it's an interesting take on it. And especially when at the end he says ugly face so killed him. Yep. Doesn't necessarily mean, I mean, you can interpret that loads of ways. The Keeper lost his mind by that point. Yeah. The Keeper may have attacked him because he was looking at fucking his mate Scott, but Scott had a mask on, he didn't recognize him. So he's gone, oh, he's got an ugly face because he thinks the mask is a face that's ugly.
Yeah. No, that's a good point.
It's a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, I know, and there's definitely like I said, that's why I didn't really go too hard on stuff like that. I guess another one was like Scott being in the closet. That was one thing that kind of threw me off at first, or how even a lot of my other viewers kind of shared the same sentiment of having the Keeper being on the bed. And I guess I also heard somebody say something very, very, again, it was very interesting what they came up with, but I'll read that in 1 second. But I guess my criticism is that obviously if the Keeper was, obviously it says that he ate it's alluded, right? It's that he went over there and ate Scott. He killed them, but it was weird that we saw the Keeper not like, shouldn't he have been in the closet? Obviously that was what the game kind of implied, especially when you're reading in the remake, especially when you go up and read. But if you go in back in the OG, you just have to go up to the desk and then the keeper shows up, right? I mean, again, this is not explicitly stated. And so that's where I guess that's where the realm of possibility kind of opens up, and creative liberties can definitely be taken into account, right? But yeah, what was your take on that too?
I think from our point of view, we wanted to, we still, with the Keeper's Diary, we still reached the same start and end point, and that is Jill taking out whatever's in the closet. And I think it was an easy get. I mean, if somebody wanted to have the Keeper popping out, absolutely fine. But I like to think it kind of kept people on their toes, because they're like, well, hang on a minute, if Charlie's on the bed, well, who's in the closet then? Because it's just expected that someone's going to burst out of the closet. And yeah, it was purely creative liberty. We wanted to tell a unique story. One of the things that Andrew did leave open that I would like to really capitalize if I get the opportunity to recut it is the Keeper died with a 1911 in his hand, and that never showed up on the on screen. So
yeah. We did see blood splatter over him, right? And I think I heard on your stream, Andrew specifically said, the director, Andrew Salo, he did state that it's open to interpretation. Like, what killed the Keeper? Obviously, it doesn't, like, because that was one of my, I guess, my nitpicks is that if the Keeper killed Scott, why is Scott in the closet? All right? I mean, like obviously, if he was deteriorated. Yeah.
As a rebuttal, it's the same reason why, how is the Keeper in the closet in the first place?
Yeah,
like, it's never actually explained how, in any lore, how the Keeper it's possible that he stumbles back into it. It's possible that, I guess, he locks himself into it because he feels ashamed that he's going to be turning into a zombie.
And I guess my point was that obviously it's explicitly stated that he did kill Scott, right? I mean, it's alluded that that's what happened. But then him going back to the typewriter, or him going back to the journal, I guess, in the game, if we're being specific, he does write down that he did do this. And then he writes down hungry, itchy, tasty. So there is a point where Keeper goes back to his desk, writes, and then he could have just stumbled into the closet, right? But one person actually in my comments, which I do want to mention, RJ Palat, he did specifically comment, says, about Scott being in the closet, what if the Keeper, still retaining some brain activity, decided to move Scott's body into the closet to try to hide what he did? And I think that's a very good explanation to kind of fix everything, because it would make sense, right? I mean, like, if with the little brain activity that he has in his head, he's like, oh, what would I do? You know, like, I don't want people to catch me. He goes and puts Scott, and then obviously we don't know how the Keeper died. That's left to the imagination of the viewer to understand what happened then with the Keeper being outside, especially with this fan film specifically, right? But I thought that was a great point that I didn't see before, that one of my viewers brought up, which kind of fixed it, right? What are your thoughts on that too?
Yeah, I mean, I'd hate to like take credit for that. I think that's a really interesting theory. I think we're just leaving that up to interpretation of how you thought he got in there. It's something that me and Andrew have spoken about. I've always been very vocal on there needed to be more of a definitive conclusion to the Keeper's, how he ends up in the bed. But Andrew, again, it's Andrew's film, so he wanted more of an open interpretation. It's up to you guys, Heath. I mean, it's entirely possible that the guys we saw earlier in the hallway found Scott on the floor and was like, what the hell is going on here?
And
I'm
they
going to
shot
turn
the
this dude
Keeper.
into Swiss cheese.
Yeah. And I guess kind of I guess leading up to that, following that, it kind of begs the question, did you guys specifically leave it open to interpretation to try to keep it different from the original? Because obviously when it comes to copyright, you can't have things exactly like it, right? Like, I think specifically you guys, like, even in the cast, you didn't specifically state that this was Jill Valentine. You didn't specifically say that this was Hunk, right? Obviously for legal reasons. Was that also like a reason why Andrew, or maybe as well as you, kind of decided to leave it kind of different, right? Because obviously for legal purposes, you can't have it exactly the same, right? Is that why?
It's an interesting theory, but I honestly think it's actually no, I don't think. I know it's purely down to interpretation. Andrew wanted to leave it open. Obviously, we might as well talk about the legalities of the Keeper's Diary, because I always get asked about the Keeper's Diary and what Capcom's thoughts are on it, or have we had any contact with Capcom? So we did have an an email from Capcom very early on in the crowdfunding campaign.
Yeah.
I remember Andrew reaching out to me, and he was like, there was literally an email in our shared email folder, and it's literally saying Capcom legal.
I think that's my fault, and I think that's what I'm saying. I think that's my fault. But you know what? It's good that they talk to you guys right away, because it kind of just like what was. I mean, I don't know if you could share the email, but I guess what was like the general thing where it was like, was it a cease and desist? Was it more like hey, you can't monetize this, or what were the talks? I mean, if you could share. I mean, you don't have to if you're legally bound.
Yeah, I can paraphrase it. Yeah. But yeah, basically the extent of it was they were like, "Hey guys, really cool project you got working on here. How has this all come about?" It was literally a fact finding exercise. I was like, actually, I'll bring it up right now. Obviously, I'll paraphrase it. Yeah. So it's not like a one to one, but you'll generally get the idea. To keep obviously they've this is I'm not under a non-disclosure agreement, so I'm not too fussed.
Yeah.
They basically said, and again, this is super paraphrased. They basically said, is it an original story or is it based on Resident Evil? The copyrighted works, the characters, what copyrighted works are used in your film, and is the film going to be monetized, or are you just using funds for the production? Yeah. So I went back to them with an extremely lengthy email where I was basically just like, listen, this is a fan project. None of us are making profit from it. We are literally doing this. It's going to go up on YouTube in full, free of charge. I mean, it's not even going to be monetized on YouTube either. Like, there's no ads on it or anything like that. Massive disclaimers on it. I said this is obviously based on the file from the game. We're passionate creators, and I ended it basically saying, listen, if you intend on taking this down, the PR surrounding this will be an absolute nightmare, because you've got. You told them that? I did. Yeah, no, I did. I'm paraphrasing this. It wasn't as harsh, but I just want to get the point across to you. But basically, figureheads of the Resident Evil content creation community are working on this. It'll be very disappointing if you take this down, knowing that it's a not-for-profit production.
Dang, Andy.
No, but it's one of it, like, on a factual basis, we're not making any money from it. Precedence has already been set. Like, if we put our legal caps on right now, precedence has already been set online, because there are countless Resident Evil films online, like Resident Evil fan films.
Yeah, so like Arclay you're mentioning before. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's others, yeah.
I mean, some of them, the official Resident Evil account has commented on it saying, "Well done, this is amazing." So is that okay? And what about let's look at cosplayers. Let's look at cosplayers for a second. The cosplayers that are on Patreon or they're on Twitch or whatever. So basically what you're saying is, if you take this film down, we can't cosplay as Resident Evil in a film role. But if we do it by ourselves online on their own platform, that's okay. So the issue with Capcom is precedence has been set all over the place. We're not doing anything wrong. We're not. I suppose the only thing in our campaign we did kind of say, which is like, man, we can't on one hand say we're creating a fan film because we love Resident Evil, but in our campaign say the movies were terrible and we're going to make a film that's amazing. You know what I mean? You're relying on a lot of goodwill here, but I was very fair. It was a long email. I was very fair, but I was very firm. It was very much like, listen, we're not doing anything wrong. We're raising funds. None of us are making any money from it. I haven't made any money from Keeper's Diary. Andrew's not made any money from Keeper's Diary. We're only using it to pay suppliers with the intent that we're going to put this film out completely free of charge online for everybody's enjoyment with no commercial incentive. And to be honest, they come back to me and said, I hear what you're saying. We're not going to be halting the Keeper's Diary production at this point. Have a good day. And if we need to contact you, we'll contact you. And they left it like that. It was actually really refreshing.
That's really great. And you know what? I have to state too, like, I guess I have to state that Capcom is very lax compared to other Japanese companies. To other companies, the Japanese companies specifically, where like copyright and trademark is very intense in Japan, where you could go to jail for even showcasing a screenshot of like an anime, which I don't know if you've heard. There's anime YouTubers there was a YouTuber in Japan that was doing a movie review and was showing screenshots, not video, screenshots on his YouTube, who got sentenced to 3 years in Japanese prison. So I mean, it's very intense in Japan. And I got to say, out of all the companies, especially that's with anime, but when it comes to Capcom, they're very lax compared to them. Like I've never seen people
Like,
be brought down or
you can
cease and
count on one
desist.
hand. You can count on one hand how many times they've cancelled productions. And normally, like, and this has already been debunked multiple times, but there was recently a Resident Evil remake and a Resident Evil Code Veronica remake that was made on the Unreal Engine.
Yes,
Made
that's a good point.
made by a couple of guys.
In
And
Argentina.
that got taken down.
Yeah.
That got taken down. And obviously everybody jumped on it. It was like, oh, they're obviously making remakes, that's why I cancelled it. Or, oh, Capcom are evil overlords. Well, no, they're not actually, because the guys stupidly had a Patreon link or a Ko-fi link. So they immediately fucked themselves because they made it for profit. This is absolutely their own fault. They know that they're playing with somebody else's IP. And this, unfortunately, gang, is an education, really. That if you want to make fan films, absolutely fine. Well, guess what? You can't make any fucking money from it. That's the trade-off that you just unfortunately have to have. And they evidently they for whatever reason they just argued with everyone over it. But that's the fact of the matter.
Yeah, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I remember you on Twitter specifically stating that you were kind of doing like you were kind of investigating the whole thing. I think you were making content about it, and I remember you actually reached out and went on their Discord and actually asked them flat out, like, "Hey guys, were you like monetizing?" And if I remember correctly, correct me if I'm wrong, they blocked you, didn't they? Like they kicked you out of the Discord. If I remember correctly,
they kicked me out of the Discord, and it was like, well, that says it all, really. You can't play victim and say, oh, woe is me, Capcom have taken down my project, when you're making money from it. You're making money from the project. I'm sorry, you're shooting yourself in the foot. And listen, if we did the same thing with the Keeper's Diary, Capcom have every right to fucking banhammer the shit out of us. But we didn't do that because we're actually sensible.
Yeah, and also, and as we've already stated, right, Capcom is pretty nice compared to other companies where they'll just shut you down. Like for example, like Rockstar shut down mods immediately, right? For like they were doing their own remakes of like San Andreas and like the GTA 3 and other stuff. Capcom has never been that hardcore. It's only when specifically with those Argentinian modders that were charging. And I think I remember correctly, somebody told me this. I know this is before I started covering news, but I remember that there was a couple of modders that were working on a Resident Evil 2 remake kind of mod, and I think they ended up doing Daymare. I don't know. Somebody brought that up. Right. Is that true? Because I wasn't covering news back then. So, but I think they got a cease and desist, right?
Invader Studios. Yeah. So Invader Studios, they were making like Resident Evil, the original, on the Unreal Engine, and Capcom basically said, listen, we know you're going to put this out free of charge, and it looks like it's going to be very high quality. We're doing our own thing. Well, obviously didn't say that at the time. But it evidently came out that they was working on their own remake, and they didn't want any infringements from that. So which is I think that's pretty fair, and to be honest, they flew the gang out there and they were very pleasant with them. I think they even credited them in Resident Evil 2 remake. So I mean, come on, like,
they're really nice.
Believe Capcom are like the most. They let you use your license. I know I've got so many friends in the modding community who have active patrons on their mods. Like Patreon accounts of their mods, and that's totally that's gone down fine. They've never been stopped for that or anything like that. And you could argue that is like, dude, you're literally like damaging their game to create your own game, and you're monetizing it, and they still don't have a problem with that. So,
well, even with pictures, I'm actually just thinking too, I'm remembering, I think before you actually were doing merch and showcasing Capcom, and somebody approached you, correct me if I'm wrong, but somebody told you like, hey, you should be doing like exactly 1-to-1 of pictures, and you were like, yeah, I've decided to change my merch to make it look look similar but not exactly the same, right? I mean, is that, I mean, stuff like that, right?
It's artistic liberty, isn't it? So it's one of them, like it's a little bit different with art, I guess, because you've got derivative works and stuff like that. So I mean, something like behind me, like I purchased these off T Public, I think the website was, and I mean, they're quite close to
and that's what I was going to mention too. Like I've seen so many like fake Resident Evil merch because Capcom doesn't really prioritize on making merch, and so there's so many of that, and it's like Capcom is really nice about it. They don't really go after people, to my knowledge, because I see stuff on like Etsy. There's so much Resident Evil arts and crafts, which is great. I mean, it's amazing, but obviously Capcom does have a legal right to basically take that all down, but they don't, right? I mean, they're really nice about it. I mean, even compared to like Nintendo, who like they don't even allow any modding.
By the way, Capcom merch is terrible. Like, I remember the village shirts coming out.
There's
I'm
like
being
a square.
man, you're almost wondering why people make their own merch, because yours is absolutely stinks, dude.
Yeah, it's not great. Like it's very like just copy paste. We're done. Let's go, guys. Let's buy it. And it's like, yeah, it's not great. But I've heard in Japan they do have like their own Capcom store. They have like little plushies and stuff. But I mean the shirts, what I've seen from like the Amazon website for like Capcom official, it's not great.
Squared off, like someone just ironed.
I used to make those when I was a kid.
Yeah.
I actually I put a Pokemon thing or like a Resident Evil thing.
Yeah, iron it on. It looks like they've done that. It's like, man, you're $1 billion outfit. Like, the shirts on my merch store are fucking better than what Capcom put together.
Yeah. But I guess what I wanted to say was Capcom is pretty nice compared to other Japanese companies. Yeah. You got to remember, guys, like at the end of the day, they have full right to come after anybody, but they don't because they're pretty chill. So, yeah.
By the way, they could have easily have gone, like, I could have wrote that email to them. And even though I ended it pretty firmly, and I said, listen, it'd be really disappointing if you take this down, because like, loads of people in the Capcom in the Resident Evil community are working on this. So like, you're almost like going to smash people's dreams in a way.
You're going to get blasted if you do. Be careful.
Yeah, exactly. And they absolutely would. Like, I think we got taken down for that. It would have been bullshit. Totally fair on their part. But they could have read that and been like, yeah, man, that's a really cool story. I don't give a fuck. This project's cancelled. But they didn't. It was I think it was very fair. But they did leave the door open. They did say, we will contact you in the future. So what I have done with them, and I don't know if I've spoken about this publicly before, but what I have done with them is I've sent them like our accounts that I've put together, just showing you how we've expended everything, so they can see that, yes, we're doing exactly what we said we would do. We're not monetizing it, and this is how we spent the funds. So I didn't have to do that. I just thought that was the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And
I see, like business expenses. You showed them business receipts. Yeah.
So
that's a very good idea.
Of like where, like, so we got the cash in on this date, and then we had to pay for airport fees here, food here, etc., all the way down, set building stuff here, all the receipts and that sort of thing. So I've provided that information to them, really as a gesture of goodwill, to just say, like, listen, we're doing exactly what we said we was going to do. I hope this meets with your approval, type thing.
Yeah, and I guess going back to this is something that I heard, I think, in the first stream that I saw with you and Andrew, and I guess it's good to bring up too, is that because I've also seen this kind of come up, whereas people were asking like, hey, are you guys going to sell the same merch that you had for the Keeper's Diary? And obviously you guys in that stream specifically stated that no, we are not allowed to, obviously, because that was for the production, but you can't sell after the fact, right? And it's kind of a shame too, because I wanted to get a Keeper's Diary poster, but it was right there. You guys just hit the goal. I actually donated, to be in like the credits, but for the poster I was gonna wait till later, but you guys already smashed the goal, and then it was too late. I was like, no. But anyways,
it's a really tough one. So there's two things specifically related to the crowdfunding campaign, which I often get asked about. One is obviously the selling of posters after the fact, and it's tough because for all intents and purposes, this is not a Residents of Evil production. Like, this is a Black Ridge Media production, which is Andrew's limited company. This is a collaborative effort between multiple Resident Evil content creators, and it was distributed on the Residents of Evil. So, like, the Residents of Evil team had all like inputs in it, but it's not like it's a Residents of Evil project, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, they just distribute the film. They're like Netflix in this case. Yeah. Like, Netflix films, they aren't all produced by Netflix studios, they'll be like produced by Joe Bloggs Studios or whatever. That's the setup that we had. So so the first one is obviously the previously implied agreement that we had with Capcom that we're not going to be monetizing things. So naturally, if you sell posters, they're going to be for profit. So that will violate that agreement. And two, it is a collaborative effort. So, okay, we sell a poster and it's for profit. How is that exactly going to be split amongst all these different creators? It just, I personally think it opens up a can of worms that we don't need to open up.
No, and you don't want another email from Capcom saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" Right? You don't want that.
Or but you don't want to eat the forbidden fruit either. You don't want to. You built a fantastic relationship with all these different content creators. You got, me, Let's Talk Resident Evil, RE Challenger, JJ. You don't want to fall out over money, so. it's one of them. Let's just not fucking do it. I mean, we can't do it anyway because we've kind of said to Capcom we won't do it. So,
Yeah.
I'll yeah. The Keeper Story poster is absolutely fantastic, but yeah, it is kind of limit at this stage until I suppose we could seek advice on it and come back to everybody. But yeah, the official kind of line is we won't be issuing any posters after the fact.
Yeah.
The second like perk that I always get asked about is like, oh yeah, I'd love to have it on a Blu-ray, and that's really the same sort of thing. Like, is it sensible for us after saying to Capcom we're not going to monetize it, that we're going to be sending out DVDs like we're a distributor? Plus, I don't really know enough about the process, and at least with T-shirts and posters, they're quite hard to get wrong. I don't know anything about Blu-ray or DVD manufacturing.
Yeah, but that seems like it's more complicated. For sure.
Yeah, and this was always like the deliverable was always to put it on a streaming platform like the Residents of Evil or the YouTube channel. So it was like that from the beginning. It was the intention was never put it onto DVD. That I actually had to quell that really, really quickly because people were in the comments like, "Can't wait to get my DVD." I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about? We're not issuing any DVDs. I'm spread that dirty.
What you talking about, Willis? You got to calm down there.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, like really appreciate your support. But
we don't want to get in trouble,
that, man. Yeah, dude. Like, do you want to see this film? Because, man, if you want a DVD, you can watch it, but no one else can, I guess.
Yeah. Anyways, let's catch up with the chat, and we'll continue. We're doing really good with the questions. So, last thing I saw was a dude who looked like pizza yelling starts prostitute. Okay, I don't know what's happening there. We'll just skip that. Kyle says a short film is a short film. I don't know why people were saying I thought it would be longer. That's a very good point, Kyle. Yeah, it's a short film. So, I mean, usually short films go for like 10 to like 15, 20. Like it's. I mean, that's what it is, right? Raccoon City Pizza says,
sure, feature length is like 45 minutes and above, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. It's definitely not going to be that. Yeah, if it's a short film. It's a very good point. Raccoon City says, Hunk being there was cool. Makes him feel like the manager for Umbrella or something. Sort of like from Mike from Breaking Bad, a dude who is sent to get things done. Definitely. Yeah, that's a very good point. Raccoon City Pizza says, Scott must have been listening to Cleaning Out the Closet by Eminem. It also states Keeper could be locked Scott in the closet so he didn't have the temptation to eat him some more. That could also be. It's a good explanation. It says, oh, great minds think alike. I commented that right before you mentioned it in another video. Has the same idea. Kyle says, I hope this isn't Scott's blood. Nicholas says, actually, I'm so mysterious about Umbrella Managements, besides of Lord Spencer, some other people in the back scene of Umbrella Managements that not reveal who they are up until now. I don't really understand. Wait, I'm so mysterious about Umbrella, besides Lord Spencer, some other. We'll just skip that. I don't know if you want to elaborate more. TLDR Andy to Capcom, don't be cheap douchebags. PS, our film is.
It was a bit more diplomatic than that.
Was it? Yeah, but that's crazy. That's pretty ballsy that you said that to the. I would never have done that to a Capcom exec, but that's fun. I mean, obviously you weren't to that level, but you were kind of saying like, "Hey, don't."
It was very matter of fact. Yeah, it was very matter of fact. It was very firm. It was like, listen, like I'm confident in my abilities that I didn't that we didn't that we feel we didn't violate any. Obviously, we used in the IP. But it's not for profit. We're not seeking to cause damage to the IP. We absolutely don't want to do that. If anything, we want to raise the bar of Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Whether they want us to do that is obviously to be discussed.
And I guess.
And by the way, just before you move on, I do want to say, Brandon brings up a good point that.
Yeah, I was just going to read that.
The rights to Resident Evil is to Constantine Film. So in theory, Constantine Film could reach out to us at any time and be like, hey man, awesome project, but like, man, you're gonna have to take it down. That's just inevitability.
Yeah.
But I'll have the same defense. I'll have exactly the same defense, and we'll just go from there.
And we'll blow it out of proportion, blow the situation if they do that, right? With all the Capcom creators are going to be, if they were to do that, people would be so upset. That would be so much bad PR. They don't have great PR right now, like with their audience, so that would not be good. Brandon says Capcom has always been awesome to deal with. Yeah, definitely. Brandon says Capcom didn't have involvement in the Constantine films. They made a deal back in 1986. Definitely, yeah. Constantine oversees everything. I don't think they expected one company to have the rights for nearly 30 years. Yeah, and I think that's probably the worst decision. Obviously, Capcom was a lot smaller back then compared to, now, and them doing that, I think, was one of the worst decisions they've ever done. I'm sorry. I mean, like, I watched the Resident Evil films growing up, But do I think that they're amazing? No. I mean, I think some of them are like fun to watch. Like they're just like I'm gonna shut off my brain and turn it on and watch. But it's so wildly different from like Resident Evil. And in fact, there was like, especially when I was young too, I actually didn't play all of the Resident Evils because, like I said, I didn't play the remake fully or Zero on GameCube, so I didn't have a GameCube. And so I just thought that the movies were like the games, right? Especially when I was very young, I thought that was what was happening. But then after, I was like, no, this has nothing to do with anything. So it almost honestly did bring bad PR to Capcom, in my opinion, especially because there's so many people I talk to that don't know Resident Evil, but they know the movies, and they kind of put them together as one thing, right? I don't know if that you've had the same experience, Andy, but yeah.
No, I've had the same.
Yeah. Brandon says, I think because of the amount of press and video and overall hype surrounding the project, casual watchers may have overhyped themselves on what the actual short film would end up being. I see. Yeah. So in regards to like them expecting a huge feature length movie, yeah, definitely.
There is an element as well that like you can't have your cake and eat it. And this is, I don't want to sound like I'm being a dick when I say this, but it to me, it is the reality. Like, people say they want an authentic adaptation of Resident Evil. So we say, okay, we're doing the Keeper's Diary. Keeper's Diary is like 12 pages long or something. So we was like, fine, we'll do a shot for shot, note by note. Read the note, shut your eyes, and picture what you think you're going to see. That's what we're going to make. Obviously, there was a couple of creative liberties we took, but the general gist of what we wanted to do was that. But then there's certain people that are like, oh wait, no, not like that. We wanted it like feature length. We wanted it to be longer, and it's like, yeah, but now we're doing what Welcome to Raccoon City's done, and
you're gonna have to do original stuff.
Yeah, then we've got to start inserting our own ideas. Andrew had a great analogy about we're playing in the sandbox. We don't want to play out the sandbox on this project. We want to deliver what the words that were on the screen, fever gone, but itchy, ugly face I killed him. We wanted to do that. We don't care what the Keeper had for breakfast. We don't care if he had like a love triangle with some other scientists. Irrelevant. We wanted to just do what was in that diary. So there is an element of like, respectfully, of course, a little bit of cake and eat it. Like, you want authentic adaptations, but you want it an hour long. It's not possible because it won't be authentic.
And there was also stuff, because I try to be very fair in my reviews at all times. Like, even when I review like the movies or Netflix, the series of Resident Evil recently, like 2 years ago. But one thing that I also was thinking about as well was, like, for example, there are just certain shots that we've never seen in the mansion. I think you brought up the really excellent point on stream the other day, where, for example, one of my critiques or one of my nitpicks was the infirmary. The infirmary. Like, for me, it looked too much like a hospital. And I'm curious, because I don't really know, but was this actually shot in a hospital? Was it? Because it looked like a one-to-one hospital. So, especially with the fat doors, like the wide doors. I was like, no, that's a hospital, bro. Like, get out of here.
So and I'll try and keep it summarized as possible, but I would like to go through a lot of points specifically on that, because that was a really interesting point you brought up. And actually, you ended up giving a perfect rebuttal to what area to use, and I was like, man, fuck, why don't we use that? That's a great idea.
Yeah, the medicine, like the room where all the vials
room,
were.
Obviously. Yeah, where the serum is and shit. I was like, fuck, yeah, that's a great idea. But to go back to what we did with the infirmary, so there's a couple of elements. There's no infirmary on the Spencer estate, which is really frustrating. So now you've got to come up with your own infirmary.
That's when you have to step on the original, right? Yeah.
Obviously we've got a limited budget on this, so building another room was initially spoken about, and we was like, man, this is going to be too much work. We're already doing the hallway, we're already making the Keeper's room, we're already doing a lab. By the way, that lab doesn't exist in the Spencer mansion on the Spencer estate. The observatory room, that's not in Spencer estate where that happens. Fuck me, the kennels aren't.
That was the point that you brought in your stream that I thought was very good, where you said, and I didn't mention that either, because there were certain things, like, for example, I was thinking of mentioning the Hunter room, but I didn't, because I was like, wait a second, there's no place, like, if I were to make the movie, where would I do that? Well, I guess, and also what was interesting too is that sometimes you would use the remake mansion and sometimes the OG mansion. It was almost it felt like a fusion. So for me, I was like, I guess maybe you could have done it like in the shark room of the OG, like in the OG and that kind of thing, or maybe like in the remake where there was like a window there. But that would be kind of, you know what I mean? Like so I didn't even mention it. I didn't even bother to mention it because I was like, it's such a small nitpick. And at the end of the day, I think you guys did a phenomenal job.
Every nitpick is relevant because again, everybody has their own interpretation of Resident Evil.
Yeah.
But going back to that infirmary, it was an awesome, literally like a minute away. Bearing in mind how remote this area was, there was literally like nothing for fucking miles. Down the road was like an old people's home, like a care home.
Yeah,
I don't know what you call it in the
retirement.
US or Canada,
but I guess
like a retirement. It's a bit more on it's like assisted living. Facility. Yeah. So and they had there was this facility down the road that had an entire wing that was completely not used, that was set up, and it looked like a fucking doctor's office, and it was honestly, it was perfect. Got it completely like free of charge as well, which is amazing. And yeah, that's why it looks like it. There is an element as well. It's like we're obviously trying to make a Resident Evil inspired film here, but we've only got so many resources. So some stuff, you know, you're going to have to use, suspend your disbelief that maybe there was a doctor's area in the Spencer, in our version of the Spencer Mansion. But I think in hindsight being 2020, you had an absolutely fucking brilliant point about using the save room where you meet Rebecca. Man, that would have been brilliant.
I see. So nobody brought that idea up. I see.
No.
I see.
No.
I see.
Are there? Even if it did, though, to be fair,
you couldn't have made it a reality, right? Because you said you had 6 days, so you had a week. So in total, you had like technically a week and then another week to do everything. Or how was
we
that?
Had like the first week of building, which it ended up taking a little bit longer. Actually, 8 into the filming time.
And that was just Andrew, right? That was just Andrew and I guess his dad and his mom. I guess.
Andrew, his dad. Andrew, his dad. Obviously, Rob Knorr was there for the first week.
Yeah.
JJ, and the rest of the crew, they didn't have like trade experience, so they did a few bits. Like they helped us reorganize the keeper's room, but they weren't like.
Oh. Sorry, the audio cut out. 1 second. Let me unmute. Audio is cutting out there. Can you speak right now? No, I can't. I can't hear you. The audio shut off. I am hearing something, but it's very low. I don't know if you wanna. Yeah, I don't hear you on here. Let's see. Mute the mic. No, that's unmuted. Yeah, that's unmute. I could put up a little. No, we'll see. We'll put it down. Yeah, I don't know if you want to maybe check your microphone, Andy, because it did do it. It did get out. I guess I'll just catch up with the chats real quick. Fun fact: the 1986 game was almost not released. Capcom conferred with the consulting group who told them to scrap it because I assume because of saving the company. Capcom took a bet on it and it worked. Dang, that's crazy. I had no idea that essentially happened. Raccoon City Pizza says it almost felt like the first episode of the TV series based on Resident Evil. Yeah, no, definitely. And yeah, I mean, the one thing that I'll definitely say about the Keeper's Diary is that it did kind of bring in, it did make me appreciate the work that Andrew's vision. I thought he did a phenomenal job, and I'm super hyped to see what the next projects are. Andy, how is it going with the audio? I don't know if you can also chat in the thing. Oh, you did? Let's see. I take it you can't hear me. No, I cannot hear you. Maybe do you want to maybe exit the call and then come back in as well? We could do that as well. No, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. We'll see. I mean, I'll try hanging up and then you come back to the thing. I think we'll try that again. All right. Yep. Copy link. I think he'll still have the same link. So we'll see. We'll give him a second. We'll see if if he can bring back his microphone, because I am hearing a little bit. Oh no, he's here. Awesome. Okay. Oh, I can hear you. 1 second. Oh, I'm gonna have to use a different. Yep, I can't hear you, but one sec. I'm gonna bring you in again, because I guess it changes the link. That's funny. I guess it just brought you in as almost like a different user. But yeah, I can hear you. 1 second. I'm just gonna put you there so we can actually see you on there. There you go. All right, we can see you. Awesome.
Cool.
And yeah, can you speak? Can you just speak right now?
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. 1,
Yep.
2, 3. Testing.
Awesome. Yep, you're back. Awesome. Yeah, I did notice though the camera's a little bit shifted. Maybe that's just on my end. I'm gonna switch that so I can move you here. 1 second. Is that good? Does that switch it? Or is that... Oh no, that's actually moving the whole thing. No, shoot. That's not what I wanted to do. My bad. You know what? I think I have to go on this input. I imagine. Yep, and then here, would that work? No, that's still doing the same thing. Okay, well. Oh, wait. It reset everything. No. My bad, guys. 1 second. Box 2. We'll do none here. 1 second. I have to fix my thing.
That's right.
Let's see. There we go. Okay, there's a reset position there. Okay. Yep, we'll just leave it like that. But okay, awesome. Everybody can hear Andy. Let me know in the chat if everything is good. If you can hear. But yeah, sorry that got cut out for some weird reason. But yeah, but what were we discussing? We were discussing the team being in the infirmary, and
yes.
You were
so it was the criticisms about the locations and the simple rebuttal, because I really want to obviously inevitably, if we all had the opportunity to go back and do things differently, we absolutely would. But generally, there were locations in the Keeper's Diary which straight up just don't exist in the mansion. So the kennels was a perfect one. Like, obviously, the Keeper being a fucking dog keeper, and there's no kennels in the mansion. Like, that's a bit of an oversight from Capcom, to be honest. But I think it worked. I think what we did worked. It's not out of the realms of possibility that somewhere on the estate there'd be a kennel.
Perhaps in the new remake, the remake, right? That we'll inevitably get, right? Hopefully, they'll kind of, solidify certain, fix plot holes that were there in the previous games. Yeah. But yeah, definitely. And wait a second, let me see. 1 second. Oh yeah, and I guess I'll just finish up with my other. I guess we have one more criticism that I also, not criticism, I call them nitpicks, because they're very small criticisms.
Yeah, of course.
Because at the end of the day, it didn't affect me too much. These were very minute details. But the other thing too that you kind of touched upon in your stream when I was there the other day was, and it wasn't just me, I had other viewers as well, and I have to bring this up, and I've said this in the video, but how come Charlie was dubbed? What was that whole process like? If you can give us an explanation as to why Charlie, because I did hear from your stream that, it was planned that he was supposed to be voicing the Keeper, but yeah, if you can fill us in that.
So there was 3 different Keepers voices planned. So back in the day, Andrew had a guy who sounded so close to Charlie, it was unbelievable. And he got him to do all of the lines for the Keeper's Diary, and that was kind of like the working edit. We thought it was going to be the final version, to be honest. No. Charlie was in the conversation to be the Keeper's voice, but also kind of not. Like, everything we shot on set, outside of the dog kennels and the poker scene, there was no sound. Like, we didn't record sound on set.
Oh, I see. And is that due to budgeting as well? I see.
No, not due to budget. It was a creative decision. It was like,
I see.
It's going to be narrated anyway, and Andrew's going to do a lot of ADR and put sound effects over the top. So there's very little reason. Plus, it had a little bit of an incentive from a film program point of view, because the lab was still being built while we was filming some of the scenes. So it meant bzz, bzz, fucking bang, bang, bzz, bzz, that could all still happen while we were shooting.
I see.
So and I think that was completely unintentional.
Yeah, I heard you guys mention that while you guys were shooting a scene, there was hearing hammering and like stuff building. I see. So, and since you had technically it was 6 days with all the crew, with everybody there, right? 6 days to work on it. That's crazy. No wonder Brandon earlier on said that you had 18 plus hours. That's expected, especially if you only have 6 days. And how come it was due to time constraint? Was that just an oversight? Or if you were to do it again, would you guys be like, okay, we need more time to do this just in case? Would you have given everybody everybody, like obviously people work, everybody has, you know, different jobs as well, but would you have like allocated more time, like get like 2 weeks off instead of one, essentially? Would you have done that?
100%. Like if I was going to go back, I would definitely do it over 2 weeks. But there are implications with that, commercial implications. So $50,000, like I'm so appreciated that we got to that value, but it's not a lot of money in film. It really isn't. I think the equipment by itself was about 12 grand to hire. So take that off the top, take out everybody's flights off the top, because remember, where we're shooting is so isolated. So people were taking 2 or 3 like flights to get there. That it ended up being really expensive. Obviously building all the sets, that was expensive. Like that 50K runs out very, very quickly. So
and speaking of which, where does, like, obviously, like Residents of Evil, most of the members are in Michigan, right? But you obviously had to come from the UK, as well as Luke, I imagine, right? And Luke came from the UK. Anthony, I think, came as well. I heard, and but yeah. So how many connection flights did all of you have to take, or was it because sometimes it's cheaper, right? Isn't it, to do like connection flights, or it's like more?
We timed it correct. We timed it really well, because there was a production house, a camera hire company in Chicago. So we went to them and said, listen, this is the kit we need. And they gave us a truck as well, a grip truck, put it all in there, which is fantastic. And we drove. So I took a direct flight from London to Chicago, and then we drove 5 hours up to Michigan. But Anthony lives in New Jersey, and he drove from New Jersey all the way to Michigan. It took him like 17 hours or something crazy.
Yeah, it's 17. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, because Michigan's like,
it was a crazy.
I think Ontario, right? I'm looking at it from the Canadian map, so I'm thinking New Jersey's probably like underneath Montreal, south, and then you have to go the other side. So it's just one, I guess, one province for me, but for America, there's so many states, right? So I see. And does Beggy live in Michigan as well, or did she have to also fly?
Beggy lives in Illinois, so
I see. I don't know where that is.
Same sort of journey we did. Chicago, basically.
Oh, okay. So she, not too far. I see. So she also hopped in the car with you, I imagine, and you guys all went over there. She actually drove
up by herself, because she was going to come back on a certain day, and that's another thing. So you have commercial implications with a program. You have obviously the hire of equipment. If we're doing 1 week's worth of shooting.
Insurance as well.
Yeah, 1 week's worth of shooting with your hire equipment. Now you're doing 2 weeks. Well, now you've doubled your hire figure. Insurance, we're only insured for a certain amount of time. To keep it cost effective. Availability of people. Obviously, not everybody can take off 2 weeks to help you shoot a film. We did. There were some people like some actors which were remunerated and had expenses covered, but a lot of people on that project did kind of work on goodwill. So,
and as well as
add on
where you're staying, right? I mean, I imagine you guys Airbnb or hotel or whatever was more cost effective, right?
Well, exactly. So that I didn't think of that. Yeah. So
for 2
on
weeks,
top of that, you've got another week's worth of.
Yeah.
It's only, honestly, I know $50,000 sounds like a lot of money, and believe me, we are blown away that we raised this.
Yeah.
Maybe next time I'll probably put 100,000 because just to cover, because it was really, really tight, and
that was actually one of my questions. That was actually my questions with the success of the Keeper's Diary, because obviously I haven't kept up with it, but I think I saw recently on the Keeper's Diary Twitter that I think it passed 120K, right? So obviously it's going up there, and it seems like it's steadying, like it's getting views. Obviously it's successful. I've heard you guys talk about how the likes to dislike ratio is pretty good, right? I mean, you're always going to have naysayers, but with the success, obviously if you guys were to work on a different project, which it seems like you guys are, especially with Dino Crisis, will the price of the crowdfunding be raised up? What do you? Will you keep it the same?
I wouldn't necessarily say. We haven't fully conceptualized how much we think the next budget's going to be.
I see.
The thing with the Keeper's Diary is it had never been done before, so we didn't know we could raise $40,000. We didn't know. I mean, in all fairness, we could have put up $40,000 and only 10,000 people, $10,000 were donated. Like, it's just the risk you take with doing something so unprecedented. We raised it and absolutely smashed the target. I'm sure we will be. I'm sure the same people will, if we ever did do something again, we'll probably donate again.
Yeah.
I think if we were going to do another film, we probably wouldn't do it where we shot it, because the logistical implications of shooting it where we did just added so much expense. And
yeah, also freezing your butts off in Michigan, right? In the cold warehouse with no heat.
Yeah. And
no heat. Dang, that's crazy.
yeah, so it's like you've got that element. Maybe we shoot it in a more centralized location, so it's a lot easier for people to get to. If it's easier, it's probably going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
Obviously, just getting equipment there, times and stuff like that. I wouldn't necessarily say it's hard to say right now, because we're really our focus right now is to get the Keeper's Diary out there, get it to as many people as we can. So we've kind of gone, right, this is what we've done. This is the quality of film we can produce, and this is what we want to do in the future. Are you in or are you out?
Yeah, and that's a good segue too, guys. If you have not watched The Keeper's Diary, if you somehow missed it, go and check it out. It's actually on the Residents of Evil. It's completely free. You don't have to pay for anything. It's up there. You can watch it. It's amazing. So if you guys saw my review as well, you guys know my thoughts. So yeah, go check that out. Yeah, and the other thing too that I was also going to ask was. Yeah, so sorry, I let me go back to the thing. Yeah, going back to the next project, we got some news that you guys are working on that Dino Crisis fan film, the third Energy Crisis. But I also had a question. Before, I remember when I spoke with Andrew, he did state that he did release that very short, very teaser almost. It was with the OG Barry, OG Wesker, OG, obviously Charlie Kraslovsky. It was called Resident Evil Resurrection, if I'm not mistaken, right? Is that the next project that you guys are working on? Because obviously, since that was such a teaser, is that almost like a concept, almost like the concept for The Keeper's Diary? Is that what you guys are releasing first, or are we getting Dino Crisis, the next project? And I could see you smiling, Andy. I don't know.
I can neither confirm nor deny what the next project we're working on.
I see.
We are currently... All I will say is, it goes without saying that we knew that The Keeper's Diary was going to get some good viewership. Yeah. We didn't expect it to get nearly 150,000 views in a couple of days, if I'm brutally honest. Like,
nice.
We've watched that edit so many times, you'll almost become numb to it. You're like, are people going to like this?
Yeah,
are people going to hate this? Obviously, you're going to get people. Like we had a silly comment. We had a silly comment the other day. It was like, "Oh, the pigs! Like the pig that was in The Keeper's Diary. He wasn't well trained. He didn't even react to the hunter being there." And it's like, bruv, it's a pig.
Yeah, I did see that.
That's why we were shooting it.
I did have that nitpick as well, but I was not going to mention that, because obviously, I mean, I've worked on sets and stuff as an actor, as background and stuff, and I know how it is to work with animals and children, and animals are some of the hardest things to work with, because especially on set, like I remember we were doing a chicken scene for this Western show that is actually just releasing too, but anyways. There was a chicken that was they wanted to have the chicken run past the scene by the cameras. And the chicken was like, hell nah, I'm leaving. I'm tired of being here. He went underneath the whole house, started messing. It caused the whole production like freaking 2 hours to find that chicken who was underneath the set of the building. And so I know how hard it is. So obviously, you can't have a pig. You can't scare a pig too. I mean, that's not great either. Yeah, you have PETA all over you.
It was a very simple objective with this pig. Like we just opened the trap door.
Yeah.
And he just ran and ate some food.
Go eat your food.
He did it to his best of its abilities, I'm sure. Yeah. I'm sure if we gave it a pair of boxing gloves or something like that, maybe it would react differently. But in all fairness, the pig scene wasn't too bad. The dog scene was a nightmare, because you are dealing with these highly trained dogs. You're trying to get them to act a certain way, which they're not familiar with. Like the dog where it's like fever gone but itchy. That is like a real, like, it's not like a prop or anything like that. It's an actual dog that we got to lay extremely still.
Yeah.
So that was a very, very long night, because they will say don't work with children, don't work with animals for obvious reasons, because they don't speak English, you can't control them, and dude, the pig performed as best it could. There's not much more. I mean, I can see
you're
we
not
could have had a
wanting Oscar caliber quality acting with the pig.
yeah,
Like it's just an animal at the end of the day. So that's why I didn't even mention that. But it's funny that somebody
yeah.
mentioned you're always gonna get naysayers.
Yeah, it
So
was just, but it was
yeah,
like obviously I get that there's maybe we could have had like an extreme close up of a pig looking scared or something like that before it gets completely obliterated.
yeah,
But the way it was worded was so funny. It was like it was almost like we were so like what's the word, like incompetent in our abilities that we just didn't know how to tell this pig what to do. And it's like
yeah. And also the pig was eating too. I've never
yeah,
like been
dude.
around pigs, but I don't know. I imagine a dog, like he's eating, he doesn't care, right? I don't know. Maybe that's the thing with
Yeah,
pigs. Who
man.
knows? Yeah.
The pig done a good job, dude. Like, is what it is.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy with how the CG come out actually. And again, our CG team. Huge shout out to Luis Fafano. He. A lot of the people involved in this, just like us, had a not like full on like CG film experience, and you know, Lewis was just Unreal Engine 5 like modeler,
Wow.
and here he is like animating a hunter in Resident Evil. It's
Wow.
we should have a behind the scenes video coming out soon. The work that Lewis put in is nothing short of unbelievable. Like
Yeah.
he really, it's not perfect, but guess what? We haven't got $1
Yeah.
million to put into CG, so I
Yeah.
think this is the first time it's ever been the hunter's ever been represented in a live action film. I think it looked as
Yeah.
good.
That's
as
something I
it
mentioned in
possibly could have
in
done.
my review, was actually in my things I liked section, which was the hunter section, because that's the first time we've seen a hunter ever. And it's like why, like, I know Constantine Films is pretty they're pretty bad at making Resident Evil movies, but it's like, come on guys, like you could have done this for so many years. How many Resident Evil movies with the Paul W.S. Andersons, and you couldn't bring a hunter to live action? And the way, obviously, even as I stated in my review, I'm like, this is a short film, and for a short film, this is fantastic. It did the job, and it was great. And so many people
Yeah.
also like that, right? Like we've just got a comment before, but I saw a bunch of comments on reviews saying that they really liked to see the hunter, because like as you mentioned, right, that's the first time we've ever seen that, and it's crazy. It's crazy to think.
Yeah.
But
It is humbling. Like I've seen comments where people are like really getting emotional about it. They're like, man, like this is everything I wanted 20 years ago, and you guys have finally, you said you were going to do it and you made it happen.
yeah,
Like, is there stuff, like me looking at the Keeper's Diary, is there stuff that if I was the director and I edited it, I would have done differently?
Yeah.
I would say so. I think a big one that is often discussed is the end sequence with Scott. I feel like it goes too quickly. It almost like it's finished before it even starts. There's no dramatization in it. There's no struggle. It just kind of happens and it's over. That was a creative decision from Andrew. Obviously, it's Andrew's film. He noted Jill's military experience, and that is why she is able to draw very, very quickly and take out the enemy. I just think if the shoe was on the other foot, and again, it's not my film, but if the shoe was on the other foot and I was in that position, I probably would have had a bit more of a struggle.
More gunshots,
maybe,
I guess, like the games.
The self-defense weapon, maybe that stun gun or the knife or something like that. Give it a bit of drama. But it does end very, very quickly. That was, to me, that was probably the biggest one. The beret, obviously, Andrew's got a very, an understanding of military experience, but we didn't really have anybody on set to kind of make sure the beret was compliant with military standards. That was a little bit of an oversight from us.
People were saying that on the stream, right? You guys were discussing that on the stream, was how people were sometimes saying that she wasn't looking around the corners like a trained professional. We have to, what is it? I guess clear the room.
You're like clearing corners.
But you brought an excellent point too. You brought a great point about Jill being in that weird situation where it's like maybe her training goes out the window, and it's like,
that's what I'm saying.
Adrenaline kicks in.
That goes into this overarching point of why the Keeper's Diary is so is being taken to so well. It's resonating with people. It's because when you look at Welcome to Raccoon City, when you look at like Resident Evil Afterlife or Resident Evil Netflix, and they've got these references to Resident Evil, they're so hollow, even if they're like locations. It's because games they're not just visual, they make you feel. And the way to make a success, in my opinion, so the way to make a successful adaptation of a film or a series, of a game into a film or a series, is you need to make people feel. You need to make people feel how they felt when you played Resident Evil for the first time.
And that's a good point. I mean, video games does what no other medium does, is that they do put you in that situation. Like, how would you deal with the situation? Where movies, they don't. So I guess that's a very interesting perspective, that you wanted to kind of have that inside of a film, right? Yeah.
And if I was directing The Keeper's Diary and Jill was going down the hallway, I would have her absolutely terrified, man. Like, if we actually critically evaluate Jill, obviously Jill in Resident Evil 3 is a completely different character than Jill in Resident Evil 1. When Jill first sees the zombie, the first thing she does canonically is run back to Barry and hide behind him.
Yeah.
Whilst he takes out the first zombie. She goes through that change in character. That is a point of no return. Like, no, I can't run away from this anymore. I've got to deal with this myself.
Yeah.
So it's not out of the realms of possibility that if we relate this back to Keeper's Diary, I would have had a lot more dramatic, very heavy, labored breathing, not knowing anything can pop out. The horrors that she's seen in this mansion, not even like trained military personnel have trained to fight the undead. Like, this is the first time they've experienced fighting dead people. Like, that must be totally like PTSD scarring. Things jumping out of corners and stuff like that. It's not out of realms of possibility that maybe your military experience goes by the wayside because you are terrified and you just want to get out of this mansion.
Yeah. No, definitely. And that's why I thought it was such an excellent point to that critique, right? It was a good rebuttal, because obviously, like you mentioned, it's sometimes that happens where you're in such a high tense situation that your training goes out the window. That's why I think certain military groups keep their training very simple at times, so that you always kind of go back to muscle memory, so you know what to do, right? So yeah. And I guess going back to the question, though, because I did ask you on whether Resident Evil Resurrection or Dino Crisis. So we obviously know that Dino Crisis is, you guys are thinking about doing that, and obviously you can't speak too much on that. But I guess my question for Resident Evil Resurrection, are you guys actually thinking of making that into a longer, like, short film, or is that already done? Is that already?
I think it's not. All I will say is it's not out of the realms of possibility.
That's kind of sus. That's kind of sus, Andy. But
it's not out of the realms of possibility. I think it would be inappropriate to reveal projects like early on. Our current goal right now is to get the Keeper's Diary out there. Officially conclude the campaign, because I still need to go through the perks and stuff like that, the posters, the t-shirts and whatnot. Really, I want to get all of this concluded before the team then move on to other projects. But listen, the Third Energy Crisis was an interesting setup. That was shot at the same time as the Keeper's Diary. It was one of them, like, even though it was a really challenging project, I wanted to tack on as much as I could outside of the Keeper's Diary to that week in Michigan. Because you're not going to get that opportunity again. That's why we conceptualized the interview for Brandon. That's why we shot the Dino Crisis trailer, because you've got all this equipment and you've got all this space. Why would you not utilize it?
Wait a second. So you shot the Dino Crisis trailer in that week?
Yeah.
That's crazy. Okay, I did not know that. That's crazy. Okay, so you guys are super busy. I see. You shot an interview.
Everybody had gone home. It was 2 a.m. The actor Hannah Fuqua, the actress, Hannah Fuqua, had just come in, and the real wholesome thing is she turned up about 5-ish, I think it was 5-6 p.m., and everybody was like, "Who is she?" And because obviously we didn't tell anyone about it, we just kind of like, she just turned up, and it was like, "Oh yeah, this could be Regina in the new Dino Crisis film we're putting together." It was like, "Whoa, hang on, let's pump the brakes a little bit." It was one of them, like, it was 2 a.m. Me and Andrew were absolutely exhausted, but it was like, we would be remiss not to use this opportunity to shoot this. So yeah, we literally found an area in that warehouse, and we shot a Dino Crisis teaser.
Dang, I see. I did not know. I just assumed it was after the fact that you guys got together again and shot that just very quick teaser. Or maybe I assume because like you said, Andrew has like a media company, right? Black Ridge. What was it called? Black Ridge.
Black Ridge Media Productions.
Okay, I see. Black Ridge Media Productions. Anyways, so I assumed maybe it was just shot in Utah really quick, right, for that specific teaser because it was so great to see.
Me, Andrew, and the actress in like at 2 a.m. in this dingy warehouse.
Really cool in the middle of winter. I see. That's funny. Yeah. Wow, I had no idea. That's crazy. So, and you guys got a lot done in 6 days. Now that I'm thinking about it, you guys shot everything. You guys obviously shooting scenes, building. You guys must have been looking back at the whole process. Did everything feel like it slowed down? Like when you remember the days that you worked, those 6 days of hard work, do you remember every single thing, or is it like a blur because you guys were just so busy?
No. Fortunately, we had a behind-the-scenes photographer who took photographs of everything we did in a timeline. So day 1, day 2, day 3. So we've got a good understanding of what we did at that time. It's not really a blur. Ideally, like I don't want to do that schedule again because it was like 20 hours. It was like 20-hour days or something like that.
Yeah.
It was so brutal. But I'm happy we did do it because the output of content that we got out of that, obviously we had the Brandon interview.
Yeah.
We have the teaser trailer for an upcoming crowdfunding campaign, and of course, the Keeper's Diary itself. It just, it's kind of like sacrifice it now for gains later.
I see. Yeah. And I guess going back to with the Chris and him not being able to do ADR. So I didn't ask this question.
We was going to go.
So you did mention that you had somebody else that sounded exactly like Charlie that was going to do ADR for him. What happened with that? Did that end up getting cut?
Again, like we kind of go. I hate going back to this point, but like I was a producer on the film. I don't want to overstep Andrew's. It's Andrew Solo's Keeper's Diary at the end of the day, and you can actually hear the original VO if you look at Andrew's original teaser trailer, the one with Jill in the hallway, and the one that he self-funded himself. That is the voice that that was originally he was intended on using. Very late on as we was developing, I don't think we was ever going to use Charlie, if I'm perfectly honest.
I see.
And it's kind of fitting, actually. It's kind of fitting because Charlie has always been the face actor. He's never had his voice in Resident Evil.
Yeah.
So how fitting is it that he's dubbed over? I find that kind of funny.
Yeah, I mean, for me, and I also had other viewers, I think, as well, that also brought the same fact where they could tell it was dubbed right away. And they kind of, well, I mean, for me, I've already talked with Charlie and Andrew, so I already have it, like, before that interview, I wouldn't have known how Charlie sounded, right? So for me, I did want to hear Charlie again. But I guess that kind of just begs the question, when did the idea of bringing, if the idea was always that Charlie was never going to speak, right? Like we're never going to hear his real voice. Was the other guy from before supposed to voice him, and then that didn't work out, and then you guys, how did Joe White come into the picture?
Very late on, actually. I think Andrew had been speaking with Joe for a long time, and he was really passionate about getting Joe involved in some aspect. The original plan was maybe to have Joe as like the Doctor or like Steve or Elias or something like that.
That's what I mentioned in my review. I would have liked to have heard Joe. Because Joe's got such a nice voice, so I understand that you guys kept him with the Keeper.
To have him in person as an actor, like be one of these roles, but I don't think at that point the timings worked out. There's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of people that were going to be more involved in the project, which we just couldn't make the timings work because again, it was going to be shot in that week and it couldn't be moved. Joe White was one of them, and Andrew really wanted Joe to be in the project in some regard, and he pitched the idea of doing the Keeper's voice. As I said, we already had a voice established for it, and actually, if you go back to that concept animatic, that storyboard, that's the voice. That's actually like the voice that we were going to use in full.
I see.
Like you can listen to what it was originally going to sound like in that. It's like the Keeper's Diary beta for like Keeper's Diary 1.5. But yeah, you can literally hear that, and he sounds so much like Charlie. I actually thought it was Charlie the first time I heard it.
So I guess it begs the question: why didn't you guys just use Charlie if that was the case, or did Charlie not want to do ADR? Or I'm confused. Like if you guys got somebody that sounded exactly like him.
I just don't think the intention was, from Andrew's point of view, was to was to use Charlie. Well, I don't
I
think
see.
it was never spoken about. It was always going to be we was going to use this voice, and then obviously very late on it was like, oh, Joe White actually wants to do the voice.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, I love Joe White. His contributions to the Resident Evil community are
Yeah.
unparalleled, and they will go down in history. I'm not a fan of the Keeper's voice, the final release of the Keeper's voice. I think the original is more fitting. It sounds a lot more like Charlie, and actually, the poker scene, and I'm sure where Scott passes him the space suit, the PPE suit.
Yeah.
I'm sure we used audio for that. I'm not too sure about the space suit, but definitely the poker scene. We actually left Charlie's original voice in, and it was seamless. You can even tell the difference between the voiceover and Charlie's actual voice. So yes, if I'm being brutally honest, and by the way, like, I'm so overwhelmed with what we've achieved with the Keeper's Diary.
Yeah.
I just looking back, I think if I was in the seat, and I'm not, but if I was in the seat, I would absolutely use the original voiceover. I just think it fits better, and it sounds like Charlie.
I see. Yeah, well, no, that's great to hear, right? I mean, like, it's good also that you have that mutual respect with Andrew, that at the end of the day, he's calling the shots, right? Like the full shots. You're the producer, obviously, so you do have some shots to make as well, right? Like you do have some points that you can bring up, but it seems like there is a lot of respect there, and that's very good to hear too, right? I mean, it's also interesting to hear your perspective on what you would have done differently, like if you were on the seat, right? Like a what if kind of scenario. Especially when
that's what I'm saying. And how interesting is it that, like, we both came together to kind of put this together, and we still have like different visions on what we believe the Keeper's Diary is. And how we want to present the Keeper's Diary. Like, a long time was spent on the mansion shot at the start. There was a really cool early version, which again is in that original trailer, which I was like, that's fantastic. It's very like Amityville horror, like the house is alive type look. And I don't think even though by the way, Brent Little Creative, who did the mansion shots for us, fantastic creator.
How was that done actually?
It's Unreal.
Thank you, I love Crossplay, for the cerebro with brain.
it was in Unreal Engine 5.
Interesting. Yeah, that shot, and I heard a lot of comments complimenting you guys because it looked amazing. You guys did phenomenal with the outside, and also like at the bottom of the poster, which I've used for like my review, my review thumbnail, and as well as this live stream. Really nice. And I guess the other question too, which I was going to ask too, was obviously it seems like you guys are in talks to talk about Resident Evil Resurrection and Third Energy Crisis. Those seems to be like your next projects. I'm curious, is Charlie also going to be a part of the Third Energy Crisis? Because I remember talking with Charlie about when Andrew was saying, his projects that he would love to work on, what if. He mentioned Resident Evil 3, Nemesis epilogues, which I imagine you guys are in talks to do as well. But my question is that, are we ever going to
dispel that actually?
Yeah.
I've not spoken to Andrew about RE3 epilogues.
I see.
He might have an overarching goal, and again, it's one of them. Like, we've only got so much time, so it's like we all want to move on these really cool projects, but like, when the fuck are we going to fit them in the next couple of years?
Well, they've
got to be crowdfunded, they've got to go through the motions, etc.
And what was interesting was that it was just like a what if kind of answer that Andrew said. So when I saw the Dino Crisis, I was like, wait, hold up, it's actually happening. So when I saw the Keeper's Diary, so that was great. But my question was,
we haven't casted for Dino Crisis. I'd like to use Hannah Fuka again.
Yeah,
I think there's going to be
I see.
There's some modifications I would like to do with her look, maybe.
With the piercing, I imagine.
About it.
I see.
What's that? Sorry.
The piercing, maybe.
Yeah. I think that was a bit of an oversight because it was just so late when we shot the film.
2 a.m. Yeah. I had no idea you guys shot that.
I think that was minor oversight. Yeah. So. I think I actually really like the outfit. I know so there was two things. It was like the outfit and the hair. Yes, I suppose the hair could be a lot more electric red. It was more of like almost like an orangey brown, really.
Yeah.
we could maybe just give her a wig, and that would have satisfied that. I do really like the outfit because I do think the original Dino Crisis outfit's a bit, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a unitard-esque.
It's not a style outfit, like it's just like a leotard, like a skin tight latex leotard thing, and it's like the way we presented Regina was in this proper like tactical outfit.
Yeah,
and that, in my opinion, that really works.
I didn't even pay attention to the detail, honestly, for the outfit. I thought it was just Regina. You know, I automatically saw that it was Regina. But that's interesting. So you guys haven't casted, because I also heard in the stream that you guys also casted Sonny Bauer as Gale, who I think did a fantastic job. I think I've seen him do also impressions. I saw him do an impression. I've also done impressions on my channel. I love doing that, but that was really cool. I was like, dude, he sounds really like Gale. Did a fantastic job. And so I guess
by chance, man. That was by absolute chance. That was again, whether we get, and we really need to like nail down the script on this one, but whether we get like a physical interpretation of Rick and Gale is to be seen. But Sonny come out of nowhere. I've just heard his voices, and I was like, I needed a couple of voiceovers to be done for the Keeper's Diary. Yeah. Obviously, he played the USS Contractor too. You know, look, sir, there's another one. Sounded up to be fantastic. I was like, listen, man, like, do not tell anyone about this, but like, we're gonna put a Dino Crisis teaser at the end, and we really need a Gale voice. Can you do a Gale voice? And he did his best, and I think it worked. No, the guy who played Rick was unbelievably accurate. Yeah, I actually thought that was Rick from the game.
Yeah, it actually I wanted to see their faces. I wanted them to pop out in the teaser, but obviously it was a teaser. But I guess so that hasn't been casted yet. So is it very in the early talks? Obviously you can't talk too much about it, but is it very early on the conceptualizing? You still have, like, you haven't done a concept trailer or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, it's one of them. Like, we need something. We need something to, you know, get people going. And I think what we shot was probably enough to get people going. Yeah. Rather than just, hey guys, we're making a Dino Crisis, please support us. You know, even though at this point I think you've seen the Keeper's Diary now. Yeah. Whatever we do moving forward, we have a precedence that's been set of a high quality short film adaptation.
Yeah, and you're reputable, so definitely, because like you stated, you guys have history now. Yeah. With the Keeper's Diary,
exactly. Which we didn't have before. So in theory, it should be a lot easier to crowdfund this time because we have that time-served experience. Yeah. Going back to Charlie Kraslavsky, I'd like to use Charlie as much as I can because Charlie's a sweetheart, man. Like, just absolutely did everything he could. Yeah, he was doing the same hours as us with a smile on his face.
It was so great to see him again. Like like this is something I mentioned in the review. Is it was so great to see him on the big screen, literally, because I watched it on my TV. Right, it was so great to see him. You know, especially, you know, growing up with playing RE1, the OG. It's been a long time since I've seen him. So, you know what I mean, like playing, like acting and stuff. And we also went over that in my interview. But that's so great. But yeah, my question was, is Charlie? Or is there talks of Charlie maybe appearing in the Third Energy Crisis fan film? Because he was joking. I mean, he wanted to play a Velociraptor when Andy was mentioning
it would be cool. It would be cool, but it's kind of like, it's got to be appropriate, isn't it? Like, we don't want to be in a position where we want to just put people in it for the sake of putting people in it. Yeah. And like Joe White was fantastic in his role as the Keeper's Diary. Again, if it was me, I don't know, I just preferred the original voice. And even the quality, actually, the quality of the microphone's a little bit different. Even small stuff like that, you got a pair of headphones on, it sounds a little bit different. Yeah. But that's the beauty of it, man. Everyone's got a different opinion on it. Everyone's got their different interpretation of what they believe is their vision for it. And overall, I'm still overwhelmed, like, that this has all come together so well. We didn't know how it was going to perform. Like, Resurrection, the short film that Andrew put up, actually didn't do fantastic. I think it had like 15k views for like a year, which I know 15k views is quite reasonable, but Residents of Evil standards, it's not reasonable.
Yeah, like their live streams get more, right? So yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So we could have put the Keeper's Diary out and it got like 5,000 views or something, but you know, I did my best to kind of reach out to absolutely everyone. I reached out to yourself. I reached out to
and
tons
thank you
of different Resident Evil content creators with the intention of, listen, we may only get one chance to do this. So like, let's make a big thing of it. Even if you don't like the film, fucking just let us know. Let us know so we can take your comments forward, and hopefully on the next one implement what we've learned on this one and create an even better experience. And ultimately it could cause a movement. It could be that some exec at Constantine goes looking at, he's just scrolling through his phone on YouTube. He's like, oh, hang on a minute, what is this? It's got it's a Resident Evil fan film that's got fucking 250,000 views. Look how well it's been received. Oh, this is like an authentic film. People want to see this. This could cause a movement. We don't know.
For Constantine Films to wake up, essentially, to be like, hey, like we should do this. And right now, the way it's doing right now, The Keeper's Diary, if you mentioned it just got 150K. When did it release, by the way? It wasn't even that long, right? This Sunday? Yeah, Sunday, just very recent. So I'm hoping it hits, you guys hit that million, guys, because that was, like I said,
that would be awesome.
I thought it was amazing. Yeah. Definitely go support it if you haven't watched it already, guys. Yeah.
I like to think we've gone the out of all of the fan films that everyone's made in Resident Evil, we've probably gone the furthest out of everybody.
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah, you know what? Let's catch up with some comments, and then I think I had one more question. I think, and I also had some extra questions if you're down for that as well, Andy. Let me know. Yeah, and let's see. Oh, shoot, I missed a lot. My bad. Raccoon City Pizza says, RE films are like Sharknado movies of the horror genre. I haven't watched Sharknado, but I've heard really bad stuff. So if that's what you mean, like the RE films are bad, then yeah. Brandon says Capcom almost went bankrupt. It was Resident Evil that saved them financially. Some of the spiral was because of the SSF film, so they wanted nothing to do with the RE film. Interesting. Brandon says, I believe Capcom held fund 33% of the Street Fighter 1994 budget and lost money on the investment, so they left the RE movies completely to Constantine. Yep. Brandon says, fun fact, the 1986. Oh yeah, we read that. Oh no, yeah, we read that. Raccoon City Pizza says it felt like the first episode of TV. We read that as well. Kyle says, I really did like the lighting in the RE1 remake on the GameCube. It added so much depth to the game, and back when it was released, it was groundbreaking. I got real scared when the Crimsons ran. Yes, that was one of the things that it's interesting that the remake added Crimson Heads, and then we never saw them ever. Like, we saw them in Operation Raccoon City, but that's about it. We haven't, correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't seen them again in the remakes. Nothing.
I think there was some lore that explained that. There was the strain that was in the mansion was a very specific strain of the T virus which caused that mutation, and it wasn't the same strain that got leaked to Raccoon City, which is why that's the only instance. It doesn't even appear in Resident Evil 0.
Yeah. So that doesn't make sense. Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, you've got to be all in or all out, in my opinion. I think they've just done a good job of explaining it. Well, not a good job, but they've done a job.
They explain it in the law. Bessie's a little too convenient, in my opinion. But that's interesting. I didn't know that. I didn't know that they specifically stated that. Let's see. Brandon says sometimes it's better to just use general concepts of the rooms, but bend the game to work for your film. Yeah, no, and definitely we that was something that I noticed as well. Like, there were certain posters. I think there was a poster of Jennifer Aniston. There was a poster of Queen, wasn't there? And I also heard you guys talking about that there was a Farrah Fawcett poster that didn't make it, but did make it in the credits, right? Yeah. Obviously, you can't get the same posters that were in the game. Like, that's just more time allocation. You guys are gonna have to print.
I think what we did made total sense. Like, it's fair and reasonable that a man who lives by himself is in the late 90s is probably going to have a Farrah Fawcett poster up on the wall and a Jennifer Aniston poster up on the wall. And if you're a huge Resident Evil fan, you are going to understand the importance of Queen to Resident Evil with Made in Heaven, Let Me Live, etc. That made a lot of sense for us to put on there.
Yeah, and there was that at the end of the day, it just helps. Like, that actually helps with the film at the end of the day, right? Like, adding that connection of the Queen and stuff, which I actually didn't think about. So that's really cool to know. Raccoon City Pizza says, I like to imagine that Charlie faked being sick and went to the hospital, and then the crew was like, hurry, turn the camera on before the nurse gets back.
Lock the door.
Axel says, Keeper's Diary nailed the tone better than any of the big budget movies. Yeah, and this was something, I think I was watching a bit of I actually just started watching Resident Evil Challenger, right? Luke, what's his name? Luke Nougère or
Yes,
Nougerie?
Luke Della Nougerie, I think. I can never
Nougerie,
say.
yeah.
I just call him Nugie because, yeah,
That's it.
I can never say his name. I've known him years, still can't say his last name.
Yeah, and he specifically stated that it was he wanted to keep that RE1 remake tone, so that kind of color. Because I was hearing the beginning part of his video, he said he actually color corrected the film as well, right? And so he
Yeah.
wanted to keep it kind of very much like the remake, and that's what he was going for at the start of the filming. So I thought that was really, really cool. Yeah, really cool. And I thought he nailed it. I thought he did a fantastic job, especially because you
Yeah,
guys
it
like
looks fantastic.
as mentioned, you guys combined like RE1, the OG with RE remake. I thought, yeah, it made sense at the end of the day. Axel says the first Resident Evil movie was pretty good, but fell apart after. Even though I did like the second one, I think the zombies didn't just seem scary enough. Like they weren't much of a threat. That's a very good point, actually. I will say, I think one of the things that I liked about Welcome to Raccoon City was the fact that they showed one scene where it was Chris fighting all of the zombies, and you could see him really pushing, those zombies out of the way, and it kind of just showed the strength of a zombie. Where I don't think the first Paul W.S. Anderson movie showed that. It didn't really show how strong they were, in my opinion, because the T virus does make you super super buff, right, with strength. So I like that, but yeah. Axel says, how is this guy on America? Just a few minutes. Missed a few minutes. Oh, I don't understand, Axel, what you mean. Brandon says there's a lot of stuff coming. Each project is going to keep raising the quality, the stakes, and the scale. Wow, if that's definitely the case, Andy, then yeah. I'm super hyped. I'm super hyped. Yeah, nailed the tone. Axel says. Brandon says it's not always cinematic to have professionals use proper tactics 100% of the time. I say this as a combat vet, and sometimes training does go out the way. Exactly. That was a point that I brought up as well, where you do have to, in tough situations, there are exercises where you have to calm down. There's breathing exercises where you breathe to like 4 seconds and then kind of just snap out of it, right? You do have to, but when stuff happens, like that you're not prepared for, right? So that's a very good point that Andy brought up before. Brandon says, Andrew's a very passionate fan with clear vision and focus on what he wanted. Everyone involved took that vision and helped him execute it. No, definitely. I think this is something that I mentioned too in my video. I thought that you guys did such an amazing job that every time I'm going to pass the Keeper's Diary while I'm playing the games, whether it's the OG or the remake, I'm going to think of the Keeper's Diary of Biohazard Story. I think that's how phenomenal you guys did. You guys did such a great job.
That's humbling.
Yeah, because I mean, how can you not, right? Like you have Charlie Kraslovsky there. You have like, it's instantly going to bring me back to the film, and so I hope that that's the same case with everybody else. But yeah, that's definitely how I felt. Andrew says, Raccoon City Pizza says, yeah, and from what I've seen, combat isn't always clear while going around the corner. It isn't simple. Hollywood seems to make it seem that way. Yeah, there's a lot of projects. Brandon says there's a lot of projects being discussed. Not all of them are known, and schedules are shuffled around as projects enter development. Oh, is this in terms of like projects that you're working on, Andy, with like the Resurrection and Third Energy Crisis and stuff? I see.
Allegedly, yeah.
Allegedly. Brandon's helping me out here.
Anyways. Fine, Biohazard chat over there.
Brandon says currently there are only 2 projects definitely locked and entering development. There are at least 5 more in various stages from discussion to scripting. Oh, so Brandon is definitely, what it seems to me is that Brandon is definitely is helping you guys out with the next projects. It seems, right?
Yeah. Brandon's all in on.
That's so good to hear.
These projects, man.
Yeah,
and he's he's an esteemed friend. He's done such a special job on the George A. Romero documentary.
Yeah.
And it's like, why don't you want the best people working with you? Obviously you do. So
yeah. Now that people have some production experience, it's only going to get bigger and better. Yeah, I guess that's a good question, kind of to segue. Who had production experience? Did you have production experience? I don't think we went over that. Andrew, obviously, he did have indie films and stuff, and we did talk on the interview before. He did state that he has worked on actual film sets, with different movies and stuff. But yeah, what's your experience? What was everybody's experience? Because I think we talked about this in the first stream I joined of yours, but I'd love to go over that.
So like, obviously, my degree was in film. I'd done like a couple of short films, but nothing too exciting. Obviously, I know my way around a set, but it wasn't like a formal experience or anything like that. But to be honest, mine was more of a budget monetary role anyway. I wasn't like wasn't going to be directing people on set or anything like that. So it was, a little bit differently. Andrew's got his job is he's a content creator for as I said, he works for a university, like aviation and stuff like that. So he shoots every day, edits every day. He's got his own production company where he makes private videos for clients. Nuji's an award-winning cinematographer, works for the UFC. He's very rarely at home. He's always flying to South Africa, Japan, just shooting different things. So he probably had the most experience out of all of us. Let's Talk Resident Evil, huge film buff, and created a couple of his own short films, but no formal experience. JJ, he'd been in a few films, no formal experience, but JJ wasn't necessarily. He was more of an associate producer. He wasn't necessarily hands-on. Helping us out. It was more like the back end stuff, like preparing it for the YouTube channel, and obviously providing the space necessary to film it all. So
and also the thumbnail, right? I'm pretty sure Andrew was mentioning that, I think, on social media a couple months ago. I think a couple months ago. But that's cool. I see. So, and I guess obviously Charlie too. Charlie's been in movies as well, right? So I guess the people that had formal experience was definitely Luke, Andrew as well, and I guess Charlie. I guess those were the top. And did Beggy also have experience, or is this the first time for her as well? Because also Beggy was a huge part of it, right? We haven't really talked too much, but I was hearing on your stream that she did help organize certain things. Did she? Yeah, what was her role in all of this?
Yeah, she helped out. She was an all-round production assistant, really. She helped me with a couple of locations because obviously being in the UK, I could only do so much in terms of sourcing locations from here. So she did a lot of legwork, even small stuff. People don't realize there is a lot of stuff that goes into putting a shoot together. Even stuff okay, you've got all these people here, they've all got to eat. So what are you doing about that? So we had an on-site caterer. Okay, well they've eaten now. They're going to need to deposit their waste. Where are they doing that? Because obviously it was an old fucking dilapidated warehouse. So
there wasn't a bathroom.
We had no.
I see.
No, it was
so it's like porta potty. I see.
Yeah. So we had to hire them in. So it was even small stuff like that. You just had to consider everything and everything. Obviously insurances. What touch wood. What if someone fell over and broke their leg on set? What are we doing? What could we do about that? So we had to have proper production insurance that not only we were happy with, but the landowner and the owner of the building was happy with. A lot went into it, man. A lot went into it.
And who was the landowner? Was it JJ's dad or no? He was just. Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah. So I mean, it's one of them. He wouldn't have accepted us shooting without insurance because, if we'd blown the fucking place up or set fire to something, someone's got to be liable for it.
Yeah.
So.
But were you guys using pyrotechnics in the shot? To my knowledge, I don't think so, right? It was very tame.
The only obviously in the hallway the muzzle flashes are all CG. Yeah. We did speak early on about having squibs for Scott who gets shot, but we ended up just kind of squirting fake blood on the wall behind them, and the same with the fake blood on the window on the plexiglass for the lab scene with the pig.
Yeah.
That was just some compressed air and some blood spatter. It was really cool.
I see.
But yeah, there was no pyrotechnics or anything like that. We did have a haze machine.
That's true. Yeah. For the look of the camera, right? You need that, and also to make.
So it gave that kind of smoky, really. It gave the image so much more depth and atmosphere. You got Jill kind of walking through, and it's all fucking particles everywhere. It felt
sometimes it gets in your eyes, and you're like, bro. Yeah. Yeah, I've been on set as well. But you need it. It definitely makes things look better. Right?
The hazer that we was using, and this is actually really noticeable on the Keeper story, but the haze machine we was using was fine on the initial shots of the kennels, but it actually died halfway through the shoot. So you'll see one of the scenes in the kennels is completely no haze. we can get away with saying that was shot on a different day, so
Yeah.
you know, weather and stuff like that, you might not necessarily have had haze. But yeah, so like some shots had like loads of haze, and then there's like one shot which doesn't have any because the machine died, and there's not really a lot you can do about it. They were just like the challenges that you have to go through when you're on set. It's like minute by minute thinking. Like another challenge we had.
You guys were in the middle
like,
of nowhere, right? As well, so you can't go get a haze machine. Like, let's go get another one. You can't, right? But sorry, what were you saying?
Tired. I was just gonna say, like another challenge we had. So the Wesker actor turned up, and he had long hair down to his shoulders and a full beard.
Did he know Wesker at all, or he's like, he probably did, right?
Everybody in the that were actors in the Keeper's Diary, outside of Charlie.
Yeah, that's what you were saying before, right? They didn't. Yeah,
didn't know what Resident Evil was. So that's a real testament to like directing. Is we managed to get someone to play Wesker that they didn't know who or what Wesker was.
Yeah.
But we just said, like, listen, man, this is who he is. We need you to be stoic as fuck.
Yeah.
We just need you to look imposing and be stoic. We're going to squirt some blood on the wall. We don't even need you to react to it. We just need you to stare into whatever's in. And obviously, there's no Hunter in real life. It was just like an empty space. It's like, we need you to stare into this.
Acting 101.
Just be completely bereft of all emotions. Yeah. And he really delivered. But yeah, as I said, when he turned up, he had like shoulder length hair.
So how'd you deal with that? You guys shave?
Well, this is what I mean. This is the things you've got to deal with in the moment there and then. So obviously he had to have a shave, so he was all nice and clean shaven.
Yeah.
And then for his hair, we actually ran out to Walmart and got some pomade like wax, and we literally like fucking Brill creamed his hair back.
I was good at
slicked his hair back. So
I did
tight.
Notice that. Yeah.
And like on certain shots, we literally you'd see his hair like down here where we put it back, so we'd have to like wipe it to the other side, and then when we change camera angles, we had to wipe it back to the other side. It was but hey, this is all part of the fun. Like it's managing problems as they turn up. He didn't even have a black shirt, actually. I was like, dude, the only thing we asked you to do is bring a black shirt, but you didn't even bring it.
Wow,
so I run to Walmart, get a black shirt.
Damn, that's funny.
It doesn't matter because at the end, he was fantastic. He looked exactly like Wesker, that kind of young-looking Val Kilmer, which is who Wesker was based on in the first place. He was based on Val Kilmer in Top Gun.
I didn't know.
And what are the odds that we got somebody who looks exactly like Val Kilmer?
Yeah. And what I was going to say, too, is that at the end of the day, I will say the hair made sense. I mean, you guys made it work because RE0, Wesker's hair is a little more pushed back with pomade than RE1. RE1, it's a little more up, especially with the OG, with like the spike. It's really spiked. Yeah. But kind of going along with that, Pablo Kuntz, how did that go? Was that always in talks? Because obviously I do remember Andrew doing an interview with Pablo, I think when he just joined the Residents of Evil, right? So was that always part of the plan for the Wesker actor to be voiced by Pablo Kuntz, or was that just fell into place like Joe White and stuff?
Well, it's an interesting journey. So if we go back to let's call him like the body model for Wesker. So we found that guy for an ad on an acting website, and we was like, holy shit, I think this, even in his ad, he had like long hair. And I was like, man, I think this could be him. So we literally just like photoshopped a pair of sunglasses on him. I was like, oh my God, that's Wesker. That literally was Wesker. But before that, we was actually going to be using Cosblade.
What was that? Oh, what's that?
He's a Wesker cosplayer on Twitter, very big in the community.
I see.
And he actually did come to the Keeper's Diary set, but we just couldn't make the timings work because we were shooting that scene a lot later in the week. So unfortunately, and he's like a known Wesker cosplayer. We did end up using Cosplay's voice for one of the security agents. His guy said, sir, it's not safe out here. Go back to your room. So that's cosplayed. But yeah, he was meant to be the original Wesker. But nice. we you've got to pivot. This has still got to be made. So we found this dude, and this man, Oscar Mansky, was everything I wanted and more when it comes to looking like Wesker. Like it took me. I held on for so long posting that image of Wesker because I was like, man, when people see this, they're going to be like, holy shit, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
But going back to Pablo Kuntz, so Pablo Kuntz only lives 45 minutes from me here in the UK.
Oh,
so
is he Canadian, by the way?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Okay.
His wife is English, and that's why they live here.
See. Because I think I heard a bit of a Canadian accent. I'm like, oh, I think he's Canadian. Yeah, Pablo Kuntz. Yeah, I see. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So I mean, we've known Pablo. Pablo's always done like cool little niche projects for us, and we, I reached out to him and said, "Do you want to do the Keeper's Diary?" And he was like, he was obviously well up for it, and him and Andrew were, Andrew directed him to do a couple of lines, and yeah, it ended up being fantastic, because what better way than to do an authentic Resident Evil adaptation than to have the guy that played fucking Wesker voice Wesker.
No, that was such a treat hearing Pablo Kuntz again. But I guess my question was that always in the table that was going to be, obviously with Cosplay was going to play Wesker, but was Pablo always going to voice him? It
was always going to be, it was all the intention was it was always going to be dubbed by Pablo.
That's awesome.
Or if we couldn't get hold of Pablo, another Wesker, we would try and find another Wesker voice actor.
I see.
Or someone who sounded like it or something like that. But the intention, like our target was like, right, we're going to have Wesker in it. We're going to get Pablo Kuntz to do it.
Yeah. No, that was so great to hear Pablo again after such a long time, right? Because he only voiced Albert in the first one, right? So
that's correct.
Yeah. So no, that was great. And what else was I going to say too? There was something else I was going to ask too. I was just one question, but I guess, we've actually finished with all of my questions. That's everything I had. I guess we'll catch up with chat. And then I also have another kind of Resident Evil questions that I have for you that are just extra. But you know what? Cool. Give me 1 second. I'm actually just going to go and I drank a lot of water, so I have to go take a bathroom break really quick. I'll be back. If you want to reach chat Andy and kind of just answer any questions that people might have had, this is the time, guys.
Yeah.
If you guys want to ask Andy, you guys have him. So 1 second, I'll be back.
Yeah, no problem.
I'll be back 1 second.
What we got? Production management is a major component. Lots of logistics and budgeting. 100% Brandon, and it's why I'm really. That was a really cool location that we did in Michigan, but it's just so remote, and it would have to be viable to go back there again. I'd like to shoot in definitely a more centralized location. I used beard wax for my actor's hair on the dock. The stuff turned his hair into a brick. Yeah. Honestly, like as you said, like when you was on set, we love this filmmaking where it's like every decision that you make matters. This is the true beauty of indie filmmaking, is the plans change and you've got to adapt to them. So that was a really, really cool thing to kind of go through the motions on just dealing with these problem solving activities. But yeah, we honestly, guys, the reception that we've received for the Keeper's Diary has been nothing short of unbelievable. As I said, like you quite often have you're just numb to what people are going to think of your project until it's released. But when you release it, you can't take it back. It's not like a game that you put out a bad build of the game and you can patch it. It's like once the film's out there, it's out there. You can't take it back. Well, you can, but people will definitely remember it. And you get one shot at this, and we took our shot. We provided a campaign. People bought into that campaign, and now the film's out. And people really like it. I'm very grateful for everybody who's tuned in and enjoyed the Keeper's Diary. Well, one of those officers indeed supposed to be Hunk, or simply the USS operative. I would say, obviously, we're careful around, referencing characters by name, but yeah, definitely an inspiration. I mean, Hunk being an inspiration. The chap that did it was a Hunk cosplayer, and the red goggles is probably a dead giveaway.
Oh, the audio cut out again. Sorry, Andy, the audio just cut out. It did that thing again. That's weird. I didn't touch anything, but you know what? I think I'll hang up, and if you want to join again, because that seemed to have worked last time. If you want to do that. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know what that was about. Yeah, the audio just cut out again, but we'll see. He'll come back, and we'll finish what he was saying. We'll do that. Hey, can you speak just to see if I can hear you? Are you there?
I can't hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you. Yep. I can hear you.
I can't hear you though. What is that?
Oh, you can't? Oh, shoot. Wait 1 second. Maybe I'm going to add you right here.
My sound on?
Oh, no, you're there. Yeah. Can you not hear me still? Check. It is appearing that you can hear me. So maybe am I muted on the thing? Sometimes it likes to do that. There's a little mute button.
Oh, there you go. I can hear you now.
Oh yeah, there. Awesome. Yeah. Great. So sorry for
about
that interruption. If you want to continue what you were saying.
I can't remember what I got to now.
Sorry, I just came back. Yeah, you were talking about Hunk and how Hunk is a dead giveaway. That it was him, the cosplayer, right? Yeah, that's what you were saying.
Yeah, so yeah, all of us saying was yeah, we used the Hunk cosplayer for that role in the Keeper's Diary. The red lenses is a good indication of what our inspirations were. And obviously the Looming Dread soundtrack inspiration that we had for that Duane put together for the soundtrack was very similar to Looming Dread. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I'm actually seeing Brandon said that Andrew, he told Andrew that I would be coming on for the next one. Nice, I see. And is that to be actually in the thing, or is that just for like as a production assistant, or I don't know? Yeah, or production manager. Producing. Yeah, I see. Nice. Oh, Brandon also said he used beard wax for the actors. Yeah, I've used beard wax too. I was, as mentioned, I was on the set for a Western for about a year, especially with the actors strike that happened. So that kind of prolonged the production. And it's my first time ever using beard wax. You probably see, if you look back in my videos, it's probably one where I use some, but yeah, that stuff is strong. And I was only using like the like the middle, like the, not even like the super strong hold, but dang, that's intense. It's intense, but I liked it. I actually have to shave right now. Yeah. Let's see. I think the productions grow. Having the project centralize the sets and lodging will be key. Johnny, thank you so much for stopping by. It says Tony Stark. You're referring to me. I always get Tony Stark and I get Jeff Goldblum. Always. I always get that. Yeah. There was one person that came at my door and he was like, oh, he was just like a salesman. And he's like, oh, wow, you look exactly like you look like a Latin Tony Stark. And I was like, yeah, I get that a lot. Brandon says, I personally like to see a sets built at the studio providing nearby lodging with options available at JJ Studio. I see. So yeah, with that, before you were talking about how whatever's easiest, right? I mean, whatever makes production go faster. So what are your thoughts on that?
As long as it makes sense. Because it was a bit, maybe it was just the way we had it set up. Like it was kind of the first time we was doing it in that area. There'll be inevitable efficiencies, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I guess not shooting at like when winter starts, right? Because it was freaking cold last time. I mean, where I'm from, we're in Canada, it gets to minus 45, minus 50 degrees Celsius. So I know cold. Geez. Yeah, Celsius. But at minus 40, I think is where both degrees reach the same. So minus 40 Fahrenheit, minus 40 Celsius is the same. Like that's the middle ground. But yeah,
I've probably got another like I don't know 10 or so minutes just because it's getting a little bit late.
Yeah, that's right.
I know you said you did want to cover another topic.
Let's go over those. There's just 3 questions really quick. I guess for Resident Evil. So I'm sure you probably watched the Capcom Next event. What are your thoughts on Resident Evil 9 officially getting like a shout out, right? That they're working on it. What were your thoughts on that? Was it a surprise? Did you watch it? Yeah,
I think it's inevitable that we was going to get. I knew we wasn't going to get another remake because like they don't release remakes back to back traditionally. I can't think of a time that they have. Actually, I suppose they probably did it with Resident Evil 2 and 3. That
I was just gonna say
back to back. But they try and not do that because they had a little bit of a gap between 3 and 4. And I'm imagining they'll do the same again. But from what they said, I was really happy. I've forgotten his name, the director. He very much acknowledged that Resident Evil 7 corrected the course for Resident Evil. And like Resident Evil was on a massive decline before that, so that was kind of relieving. So it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
And
I
what
don't
are
know
your
what
thoughts with
Resident
Resident Evil
Evil's going to look
7?
like.
Actually, I'm curious to know
Yeah,
your thoughts
I
on
think it
Resident
was necessary. I think it was necessary. I think it had to produce to bring it back. I truly believe that the formula was kind of solidified with Resident Evil 2 remake,
Evil.
that kind of survival horror formula.
Definitely.
But
Yep.
Resident Evil 7 really course corrected Capcom back into survival horror.
Yeah.
Because
No, I could definitely
horror
agree.
is dying.
Yes, especially with in terms of sales, for sure. I mean, it definitely catered more on the horror side of things, while Resident Evil 6 catered more on the action side of things, like on the tip of the scale, right? Because you do need action, horror, and survival aspects to have the perfect Resident Evil of like what we got with OG 1 to 3 to Code Veronica. But even Code Veronica and 3 are kind of pushing the boundary on action even more. But I mean, that's just my opinion. But no, I definitely agree. Yeah, the Resident Evil 7, especially when it comes to sales, definitely had to tip that to course correct, as was stated by the director. And I guess another question too is what did you think about the Dead Rising? I don't know if you're a Dead Rising fan, but I'm actually curious to hear what you thought of that getting a remaster, or it looks pretty much like a remake as the director for Dead Rising stated. But what are your thoughts on that? And what could that? I want to know your thoughts on Dead Rising.
Yeah, obviously, Dead Rising was a huge franchise that I don't know what what was it? Dead Rising 4. I can't remember when Dead Rising 4 came out now, but it kind
2016,
of went a
I
bit
think.
stale. Yeah, it kind of went a bit stale. So, like, why not go back? I think Dead Rising is actually a really, really good game. Obviously, heavily inspired by George A. Romero, ironically.
Yeah.
But the control scheme and some of the quality, some of the features in Dead Rising, just they haven't aged that well. So I think they've done a really good job. Kind of modernizing it. So I think it's definitely necessary. Like, a new generation needs to see Dead Rising because it really is a special game.
And what do you think of the fact that they called it a remaster? So they basically kept it like 1-to-1 the same. That's my understanding. That's what the director kind of alluded to by stating that it could be called a remake. Of course, I'm paraphrasing there. I don't remember the exact quote, but anyways, it kind of I don't know, it begged the question for me that if Capcom is doing this type of remake, which is different from the reimaginings of the remakes for Resident Evil, how would you feel if Capcom were to do this with like Outbreak or Outbreak File 2 or something along those lines, like of the OG, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Those OG games. What would you think of that?
I think it'd be really cool. Like, I mean, they did the same sort of thing with Dead Space, I guess, where it's like, it's a remake, but like it's so similar to the original game.
Yeah.
They like may have like gone in, they've got like different areas and stuff like that, but generally the game is hits the same notes, you know?
Yeah.
It's 1-to-1. So I'm definitely on board for that. I don't know if Capcom do it. I suppose it's quite an easy transition for Dead Rising because the third person, like, was not over the shoulder. Well, actually, yeah, it kind of is over the shoulder.
Yeah.
It's quite an easy transition versus like Outbreak, which I couldn't even imagine, like, if they even still have the source files for Outbreak at this point. I'm imagining they probably have it for Dead Rising because it's like Xbox 360. Like, there has to have been like at least some like backups that were made of the source code. So, but I don't think that was the case for Outbreak, because that was the big issue that Resident Evil had with the first remake coming to consoles in 2016, is that all the source material, the source files were gone. Like, they didn't save them back in the early 2000s.
Wow, I did not know that.
That's why it took a little bit longer for Resident Evil 0 to come out. Because they'd lost all the source files. The exact same thing happened with the Silent Hill HD remaster for PlayStation 3, where they lost the source files and they had like an old beta that was broken, that they used that as the basis for the remaster.
Dang, that's crazy.
It was crazy. So
yeah,
I think it would be really, really difficult for them to. I think if they're going to revisit Outbreak, it'll be a new formula that's on the RE engine. I don't think that they'll like go back to the past. And remaster them. I think it'll be like, this is new Outbreak.
Yeah. I've also heard like some companies where they use what modders have done, because modders have kept like the source of like original stuff. I think that happened with Mass Effect, where modders the Mass Effect remastered, there was one section that was missing, so they didn't add that because they lost it, and then modders basically brought that up. So I mean, it could happen, but yeah, it makes things very difficult, right? Like like even that company decided, no, we're not doing that. And I guess I have two quick questions. What Resident Evil game should Capcom remake next, in your opinion? What's the if it was just up to you, what would you remake?
I don't think I'm still pressed to say that Code Veronica doesn't need a remake, in my opinion. Like it just needs a very, very good remaster. Actually, kind of leaning into your point about Dead Rising. Like, why can't we just not do that for Code Veronica? They will, if they have to remake Code Veronica, they will have to change things in it that people don't want to change. Like specifically to do with the Ashfords, some of the terminology that Claire used towards the Ashfords, even some of the weird stuff that goes on. They'll have to change so much to make it kind of whether we like it or not. Like they're going to have to adapt it to make it.
Yeah, I guess you mean pleasant. Like with Ashford cross-dressing and stuff. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, exactly. And like Claire calling him like a cross-dressing freak. Like you can't. It's just regardless of what side of, not to get like super political, but regardless of what side of the aisle you fall on, like it's just a reality of the world we live in right now. There's some stuff I would rather them just go, listen, we're going to retain that. We've already seen it actually with the Oculus VR port of RE4, where they took out the line about Lewis talking about
the ballistics. The ballistics
ballistics. So we've already seen that. So I really don't want that for Code Veronica. I'd rather them just remaster it to a high level and just leave it intact. If they were going to remake,
and that also happened with RE4 remake as well, right? With Leon saying women, women. Yeah, they took that out. They replaced that. But I mean, if that's happened with RE4, one could argue that we're always going to have the OG Code Veronica. So. You know what I mean? Like if they had the OG, and even if, I mean, also like another counter argument I'm also thinking is that you mentioned how with the Oculus Rift version of RE4, they changed the ballistics lines. If they were to remaster Code Veronica for newer audiences, of what they like to call modern audiences, you could also make the argument that what's preventing them from also changing certain lines from that, right? It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to keep it 1-to-1, kind of like what's happening with Dead Rising, which I thought was super amazing, that the director was like, people were like, dang, this is intense, what are you doing here? And then he's like, no, fan expectations, we got to keep them we got to keep them high. We're making this for our fans. And so, which is very rare. It's very rare in I guess video game stuff, right? But yeah, I guess so you personally would not want to see Code Veronica. You would want to see RE1 remake.
Yeah, I think if they're gonna, if we're looking at it logically, in my opinion, if they're gonna remake another Resident Evil, I just can't see it being Code Veronica. Like they have to just change so much of it. I would like them to do Resident Evil 1 because that will complete the collection of 1 to 4. They have a unique opportunity to go back and bring one into the and I didn't used to have this opinion, by the way. I was very much like, well, Resident Evil 1 remake's a perfect game, so they don't need to touch it. But like they've got this unique opportunity where they can bring it onto the RE engine, make it over the shoulder. Yeah. Even like fix the canon.
Yeah. Like, I've made videos on that. Yeah.
5 different endings or whatever. Like they can consolidate all of them.
Yeah.
And maybe stuff that they've learned in the last 20 years with game design, with like Resident Evil lore, they can kind of retroactively fix things. There is a huge opportunity there, and it would, in my opinion, a Resident Evil 1 remake commercially. Now, this may be a hot take. Actually, it's not a hot take because we already have the empirical information for this. A Resident Evil 1 remake on the RE engine will commercially sell better than a Code Veronica remake if you look at the historical sales of Code Veronica and Resident Evil 1.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I would definitely not want to argue on that point, mostly because there's a lot of like fans that don't like Code Veronica, which is kind of surprising for me because
it's hard, man.
Is that why I say? Is that why it's hard?
It's hard. It's hard, and it's like really long. Like Code Veronica, I've actually got.
Yeah,
I'm
it drags on. Yeah.
Series, and I'm doing Code Veronica next, and I know it's going to be like probably 2 or 3 streams because it's a very long game. It's a very long game.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's definitely issues, and definitely with RE1 remake. So, but that's good. But I guess just another point too is that what other options you mentioned that obviously they would have to change the cross dressing thing with the Ashford twins. But what else? What other points does it make it hard for you to see a feasible remake for Code Veronica, a good remake, in your opinion? Because you've only mentioned one.
There's obviously a scene, and this I don't even know why they included this in the original because it's just like completely out of context. But like Claire's sleeping on Steve's shoulder, and he just like tries to like kiss her. I guess it's kind of a bit weird.
I see. Yeah,
that's going to have to obviously go.
I see. Yeah, or it could be altered to just be less awkward, right? I guess
it's kind of a bit like I just don't understand. Like, it just seems totally out of place. But there was obviously a reason why that was in there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Obviously, in an ideal world, I'd love to see a Resident Evil Code Veronica remake, but they're just going to have to like the whole Alexia and Alfred angle
with the brother and sister love, like
it's like, kind of like a bit incestuous. Like, are they comfortable revisiting a topic like that in today's world? And especially like Alfred likes dressing up as Alexia, like. There are obvious connotations that you can't avoid there.
And also, you you can definitely see like some inspiration from the Psycho movies, right? I mean, with
exactly
the guy dressing up as his mom. But I mean, the counter argument that I would say for those 2 points or 3 points that you mentioned would be that you have to remember that it's a reimagining, right? So if Capcom were to sink their teeth in, they would have to change. They would change things regardless, right? I mean, like they changed it with RE4 remake, and that was still amazing. They changed things with RE3. I think RE3 is probably the worst one, where they took out way too much. But anyways, but that's good to hear that you would pick RE1 remake. And you know what? I think that's definitely my second choice as well. But Andy, I'm gonna have to let you go because you said it's very late. But thank you so much for reaching out. You reached out. You were like, I'd love to do an intro because I was actually, funny enough, I was actually gonna send you a message like in a week or two because I knew you were probably super busy. So thank you for fitting this into the schedule and reaching out to do this. Yeah, really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I know. Like I've been following you for a bit. I know you wanted like a follow-up now that the film's come out and there's so much more we can talk about.
Yeah,
it just kind of makes sense too. And again, like I've got quite a unique, like I suppose we could have brought Andrew on again, but I've got this really weird, like unique story where there's loads of stuff that Andrew will probably be like, oh, I probably won't cover that. Probably won't cover that.
Yeah,
it's kind of looking at it from a different angle. Like Andrew's looking at it like, I'm delivering this project from a director's point of view, but I'm like looking at it from a commercial point of view and how logistically possible is it and stuff like that. Like completely different angle and again another voice in the community to move these fan adaptations forward. I hope there's a lot more to come. I hope this is just the start, and I hope more and more people can fund our projects, if I'm brutally honest.
Yeah. And thank you so much for being so open as well with any criticisms, right? You were flat out at the beginning, right from the get-go, you were very open to like any criticisms, let me know, because obviously criticisms is good to hear. So constructive criticisms, I should be more specific, right? Because criticism, not always, but constructive so you can get better,
ultimately.
Right? Yeah.
100%. Like we have to, because it's so publicly facing. Our budgets are public facing. Obviously, the way we've got it set up, where it is not for profit, and we have to keep people informed, and we have to, we have to take criticism on the chin. And maybe sometimes, as you said, like some stuff can just get lost in translation. So it's, oh, you thought it was that? Well, this is actually our intention. Maybe next time we can do better in the way we tell the story.
Yeah, but thank you so much for coming on, and thank you so much for the work that you guys did. It was crazy. I had no idea that it was only 6 days that you guys really just went all out. You know what I mean? I did the boulder punch. Subconsciously. I didn't even know.
I'd like to not do it in 6 days again, if I'm honest. I'd like to probably go at least another.
If I was there, I would have told you guys. I'd be like, no, you guys are crazy. 6 days, get out of here. But you guys made it work, which is even more crazy.
No, it was brutal, but obviously it goes without saying, look at the viewership, look at how people are seeing this, look at how it's making people feel. Like you can't put a price on that, and it's totally worth it in the end.
Well, thank you so much, Andy. Thank you, everybody that stopped by. Really appreciate it. Anyways, yeah, I guess we'll stop the stream there. Anyways, make sure to go follow Andy as well at Biohazard Declassified on his socials, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and as well as YouTube. As we discussed at the beginning, it's always good to diversify. If you're following creator, make sure to follow them on everywheres because it helps, right? It helps at the end of the day. So, but anyways, yeah, I hope we can stream again. You know, maybe we'll stream a game. I don't know if you're ever down for that in the future because I know you're a busy guy, but yeah, I'd love to have you on again for your future projects. Third Energy Crisis, Resident Evil Resurrection. Anyways, great talking with you, man. Anyways, see you guys.
Thank you.
See ya.